think it's time. Yeah. Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to another stream. Oh, there we go. My name, of course, is Alma Hexblade, your head guildmaster and chief barista, and, I'm sorry for a late stream, but I wanna at least be consistent, or at least do all my streams this week, because I hate canceling. But usually, it's going to be our usual. It's finding out Friday. Well, it's Saturday, so technically it's sussing out Saturday. Or Sussy Saturday if you prefer. One of the two. But either way, we're still going to be doing watching videos, educational ones, curious things, weird things about... I think there was one about deep frying coffee or something. I don't think I have that one in the queue anymore, but... some stuff. And obviously because I'm still in the middle of guild work, or not in the middle, tomorrow I have more guild work to do, so might be a little bit short, but let's enjoy our time, and let's see what we can watch. Alright? Let me just prep something in the back here. Because I always need to because I always need to... There we go. Alright, let's go. Yeah. Studio mode, alright. Alright, so the first one is, of course, from Modern Vintage Gamer. Always love his content. Lots of, retro renewal stuff, and always, personal favorite type of content for me. And it's about the Dreamcast going live in 2022, which I have an idea about because it did have a broadband adapter, but I want to know the deets.
I've been a big fan of the Sega Dreamcast from the moment that it came out all the way back in 1998. For me, it was the first system that I could afford that truly brought the arcade experience to the home in the form of arcade-perfect gaming. Coupled with online connectivity, the Dreamcast was a fantastic system, which seemed like it would hang around for a long time, but unfortunately, its life was short-lived and its full potential was never fully known. The Dreamcast came bundled with a built-in modem for online play, but the Dreamcast launched right in the middle of a transitional period. You see, by 2001, customers in many parts of the world were switching from dial-up modems to broadband internet in their homes. As demand grew, Sega wanted to be at the forefront of online gaming, so they would release a network adapter known as the Broadband Adapter, or BBA. This launched in January of 2001 in North America and retailed for $60.
The fact that this launched even in North America is amazing to me.
For the dial-up modem, and would offer up to 100 megabits per second internet speeds, and this would be a significant update from the 33.6 dial-up modem speed. But because the broadband adapter released late in the Dreamcast lifecycle, only a handful of games actually supported it. This is because, up to that point, all the existing online games would only take advantage of the Dreamcast modem. This meant that these games would need to be patched to support the broadband adapter, and unfortunately, this was not something that would ever happen. As it stands, only 4 games were ever compatible with the broadband adapter. They are Quake 3 Arena, Phantasy Star Online, Toy Racer, and Pod Speed Zone. Historically, the broadband adapter was a very rare item that was quite expensive to buy, in the range of $200 to $350 but in recent years the price of one has dropped to just over $100.
So conventional
I decided to
prices.
pick one
Okay,
at that price and see if we can still surf the internet and play online games in 2022. Let's go ahead and find out. Now, for those people that may be wondering, I did cover the Dream Pi back in 2018. Dream Pi is essentially software coupled with the Raspberry Pi that allows specific Dreamcast games to be played online by effectively masquerading the dial-up modem features. And for all intents and purposes, this is still probably the best way to get your Dreamcast online to this day. But unfortunately, as good as the Dream Pi is, you simply do not get the same speeds as you do with a dedicated broadband adapter. It's also very difficult to find a Raspberry Pi these days for a decent price due to chip shortages. So before we do anything, we need to connect the broadband adapter to the Dreamcast. Simply remove the modem adapter, then connect up the...
I feel like this is understated, but this design is so good. I don't know. I just think it's really neat that it's shaped in such a way that it's like it's the side of the console, but also it's an external like port. Like they could have used others. Like this could have been other things, like some kind of weird like serial adapter. Like there was like the expansion slot is a really nice spot. Words.
broadband adapter, and that should be all. Now plug in the Ethernet cable to the back of the broadband adapter. Now the next thing that we need to do is configure the broadband adapter to work with our network, and there's a few ways we can do this. First, we can use a game such as Quake 3 Arena. This allows you to configure your network settings by selecting Internet Game, then providing the Dreamcast with a static IP that's on your network, and don't forget to add your gateway and subnet. For the DNS, I found that leaving them blank works fine, but you can also use a public DNS. These settings will get saved to the VMU, which means the next time you log in, these settings will be retained. Alternatively, you can also set up your broadband adapter using a web browser disk, but keep in mind there are only two options to use a web browser that support the Dreamcast broadband adapter. Planet Web 3.0 is the most well-known one to use.
This is very
but it's
90
difficult to
or
track down in
thousands.
2022. It's also quite buggy, so I ended up going with another option which appears to be the most useful and most stable.
But it also
and
does
that's
just
using
kind of seem like a
something known as
Japanese console put
XDP.
into English mode.
XDP, for all intents and purposes, is a modified version of Dream Passport 3 that supports the broadband adapter, and it's the best web browser that you can use in 2022. XDP can be downloaded easily and burnt onto a blank CD, and I'll leave a link to that in the description below. So let's see this running in action. Once we've set up our broadband adapter and got it on the network with XDP, we can point to some websites. Now the reality is that 99% of sites that you try to hit simply will not load due to things like SSL, Cloudflare, and other protocols that the XDP browser simply doesn't support. So then, why should we even bother with it? Well, there are still some useful things that you can do. For example, the website known as dreampipe.net is probably the best reason to connect your Dreamcast and browser to the internet. This site pretty much contains everything you need for the Sega Dreamcast. For example, it contains an archive mirror of websites for quite a few Dreamcast releases. There's also dedicated sections that contain VMU save files that you can download directly to your VMU. There's no security around this, so all you need to do if you want to grab a save game is simply click on the link, download that game to your VMU, and enjoy it. There's also Dreamcast forums that you can browse and even participate in, and overall, browsing the web on a Dreamcast in 2022 with a broadband adapter is quite a nice experience, albeit limited. It's pretty fast given the hardware and its limitations, and coupled with a mouse and keyboard, it's even better. Both peripherals are fully working with XDP, and even the mouse wheel on the Dreamcast mouse to scroll down pages works totally fine.
I think at that point,
XDP
you're
also
just
features
using making.
additional tools
This
such
is a
as
Windows
IRC
CE
chat
computer
client,
at this
given that
point.
Twitter is about to implode.
Hey!
See a resurgence in users.
IRC
And once again,
chat.
This works right out of the box. The Dreamcast browser can also play MIDI files natively, and there's a section of different MIDI files
God.
that you can select and play. Now, of course, for copyright reasons, I can't make them audible here, but this is pretty neat.
That's
But overall, with
kinda
a
silly.
broadband adapter, you can indeed do some very basic web browsing on your Dreamcast in 2022. And I'm glad to see that it's still available and that there is a community out there that still supports it with Dreamcast browser supported websites. But to be honest, the main reason why I got a broadband adapter is to play games. I heard that Quake 3 Arena still works in 2022, so I had to investigate. Quake 3 Arena on the Sega Dreamcast is an interesting port. It allows you to configure your network settings and take full advantage of the broadband adapter. And then by giving the Dreamcast a static IP that's on your network, you can easily connect up and start playing. The thing is, however, while the game does run with the broadband adapter, it's 2022, and who's actually still playing? Well, hardly anyone is, but the servers for the game are still online. Looking at the master list, there are still a handful of players connecting up, and I was able to get into a few matches. But I quickly realized that these are bots and not real players. Overall, however, it does play really well, especially with the mouse and keyboard, which Quake
and these games are like one of the few that still had, or no, this at least Quake was in the like prime section of FPS games when they still had like users could still make servers. Um because like, if this was connected to like some kind of live service or something, this would never happen. And it's kind of sad, but I'm very glad at least that you're able to do this. Considering I don't know, people really did have an affinity for the Dreamcast. I didn't because I never grew up on it, but oh, CS:GO still does too? Cool, Last Bastions. It's like that and then what, TF2? I think it's that and TF2. Dedicated servers. Or
3 Arena
yeah.
takes full advantage of, and getting into matches is pretty easy. Now at this point you're probably wondering, why even bother with this? Well, of course, this isn't anything really that most people would do, but the fact that you can still play Quake 3 Arena on your Sega Dreamcast with a broadband adapter in 2022 makes it quite awesome. There's also a forum where Dreamcast users meet up and regularly schedule online Quake 3 matches, so there is still some reason to do this, but of course, we are only talking about a handful of players. But I think if there's indeed one real reason to pick up a broadband adapter for the Dreamcast in 2022, undoubtedly it's for Phantasy Star Online. The game takes full advantage of it, and thanks to the PSO private server known as Silverant, you can easily get connected and start playing.
Yeah.
Now, for this to work, you
Private
need
server.
to download and burn a boot disk, which patches the game so you can connect to the private server. Once you've done this, boot the disk, and it will prompt you to insert your PSO disk. When you load into PSO, and you'll note it's making mention of the broadband adapter. So how can you actually tell if anyone's playing PSO? Well, there are a few ways to do this, but for me the easiest way is to go to the silverant.net website and look at the server status on the left hand side. As you can see, there are some people that are playing on the Altamira server. Selecting into Altamira in the game means I can see and join other people's games. Now unfortunately I can't join these games because I'm too low level, but at least there is a small group of people that are continuing to play PSO on silverant.net, and this is pretty awesome. I believe that this server also allows for other clients to get connected. In other words, those people coming from a Nintendo GameCube can also connect to silverant.net and play with Dreamcast players, which in of itself is pretty awesome. So yeah, having a Sega Dreamcast, a broadband adapter, a keyboard and a copy of PSO means that PSO lives on forever, and that's pretty damn cool. So in conclusion, getting online and playing games with a broadband adapter for the Dreamcast in 2022 is fun. It's pointless, but it works, and the fact that you can still do this is quite awesome. The community that continues to support the Dreamcast and provides the means to play games online with the Dreamcast is incredible. I personally would love to see patches come out that enable broadband adapter support for more games, but of course I do understand that this requires research and reverse engineering, and in some cases it's just not feasible. And finally, the broadband adapter has other uses that we will cover in a future episode. It's a tool not only for homebrew development and pushing code directly to the Dreamcast, it's also a very useful tool for ripping Dreamcast games directly from disk to your PC.
Oh.
But that's going to be all for today's episode. What do you think about the broadband adapter and online gaming on the Sega Dreamcast in 2022? Do you think it's a pointless exercise, a passing curiosity, or something that you may be interested in taking a look at? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. But as always, if you like this episode, don't forget to leave me a thumbs up, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye for now.
So, like, as I guess some like ending thoughts while we let this play out, I guess. It's gonna be weird in the future for like archivists and stuff, or just people who look back on like services and games, because it's gonna be like, oh, we have the 80s, we have the 90s, we have the early 2000s, and then there's just gonna be a gap, and everybody just looking at like interfaces and stuff for services long dead that the company decided not to publish their stuff about. And the only things that people are going to see are stuff that's like, I don't know, let's say like Pretendo, where it's just going to be fan-made, reverse-engineered servers. And it's a little worrying, because we're going to lose like a lot of information. Or at least just, like all it's gonna stink for people who like want to look back on their childhood and they were raised up in this era, because you're not gonna find a lot of information. All you're gonna see is just like whispers of the past content. Yeah, see North Star for like the only things that are gonna be preserved properly are the things that people cared about enough to put in the effort on their own free time to basically reverse engineer the entirety of a server, like of, server architecture, and then do it, and then open source it, and make sure it's public, and make sure that they don't get DMCA'd or ceased and desisted by like weirdos. And when I mean weirdos, I mean you know what I mean. All right. Hello, Rose. It's nice to see you. Hold on. Let me just get my face back in order. let me move my face around. It's not working right. Oh my god, I didn't realize how bad of an angle I'm at. Oh, okay. I'm thinking I'm in trouble. No, you're not in trouble. You're not in trouble. No one's in trouble. Don't worry about it. But hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. You only missed the first video. We still got a lot. Don't worry. Let's see, what's the next one? Oh, yes. I wanted to watch this video. I remember why. Because the phrase "the moose test" seemed very weird, but also this was also interesting because it is about cars. You're just over enthusiastic. I appreciate your over enthusiasm. Yeah. Alma appreciates you. Okay. Right. Oh, no wonder my tracking's so bad. It's because I'm like, this is like the side of my face. Hold on. Let me just correct myself here. Man, I still don't know optimal iPhone placement. Because it's going to be in front of me, and then first off, it's going to be in front of me, right? And then it's going to be, like, impossible for me to figure out how to do this right. Oh my god. Okay. All right. This was about cars. This one's about cars. Why new cars keep failing in all caps, apparently. The moose test. What is the moose test? Well, I'll show you. Why are the captions so bad? Why are they always so weirdly like, no, just give me the bright yellow stuff, thank you.
This is the moose test, and strangely, many new cars are failing it. Either rolling up on
I'll show you the moose
understeering straight
yes.
on, or rolling over completely. It's a test that was made famous by Teknik and Vard, a Swedish motoring magazine, and they have put hundreds of cars through the test to ensure that their handling is good enough to be safe on the road.
Oh,
now, you would have thought that the grip and handling of cars was getting better, not worse. So I've done some digging to find out exactly what's going on. The moose test measures a car's cornering ability and resistance to rolling over. You basically weave through a set of cones that replicate swerving to avoid something in the road, like a moose, giving the test its name. And obviously, this is common in Sweden, where the test was invented. This may seem a little irrelevant for those of us who aren't in countries
there goes the moose. Bye, moose.
However, it's similar to a pedestrian stepping out into the road or a car driving out from a blind junction. The test is done on a dry surface while having the car fully loaded up with people and luggage, definitely putting the car in the worst case scenario. And in terms of cornering, the test is really aggressive. A lot of the cars complete the test at around 40 to 50 miles an hour, and while this doesn't sound like a lot, speaking from experience, the turns are extremely tight. You have to wind on a lot of steering angle, then unwind it before doing the same in the opposite direction. A scenario that doesn't happen too much on the road, but it certainly can. The rapid change of direction can be enough to unsettle cars, pushing them over their limits, with tight turns and a heavy load. The cars run several tests, gradually increasing the speed until they fail the test. To pass, you have to complete the run at 43 miles an hour or over without hitting cones, spinning out or rolling over. The test became world famous when the Mercedes A-Class not only failed the test, but failed in dramatic style. The A-Class had a tall
Oh my
body
God.
combined with a
Oh my
strong
God.
wheelbase design, which is great for passenger space, but makes the centre of gravity really high, meaning that the car is easier to roll over when cornering hard. And the car's centre of gravity matters because it creates a lever effect. The higher the centre of gravity, the longer the lever, and the easier it is for the car to fall over. Mercedes initially denied the issue, but eventually admitted the car had a huge problem and recalled all of the A-classes that had been sold. And the recall didn't come cheaply,
See, it's
costing
relevant.
Mercedes an insane $250 million. However, more recently, lots of well-known cars have been failing the test too. The 2016 Toyota Hilux failed the test when it nearly rolled running the test.
Can have a
required
physics
43
engine.
miles.
Yeah.
And of course, the
Look at that.
Hilux is an off-road focused pickup truck, so you may say that it shouldn't be subject to the same sort of tests. And you're kind of right, but there is a need to test the cornering ability of all the cars on the road, as any one of them may have to avoid a pedestrian stepping out into the street. But the Hilux has
I know,
several
unless you have a
advantages
Tesla,
in
just
this
goes
test.
straight through.
It can carry a lot more load than the other cars, so it's incredibly heavy during the test. And as it's built for off-road, it has a tall ride height, which really doesn't help when cornering quickly. And in addition, its suspension is very soft to aid traction in the mud. If you were to design a car that wasn't good for the Moose test, this may well be it. The actual problem with the Hilux was that the front of the car had too much grip, and the rear didn't have enough. A solution to this could have been adding a stiffer anti-roll bar to the rear, however this would have impacted the off-road ability of the truck. And in general, SUVs struggle with this test. You can check out Technique and Vard's channel, which I've linked in the description, to see loads of cars failing in this way. And this was also the case with the Toyota RAV4, which failed in 2020.
Oh my God, that
And then
slide. Look at
again
that.
in 2021 with the revised version of the car. The same happened.
It's cool in an anime when that happens. It's terrible in real life when the back just swings that hard and you're going 40 miles an hour, which is not even fast. Like fast, but it's still fast enough that like your car will move. Your car will schmoove if you do something to it.
The 2011 Jeep Grand Cherokee. Only this one actually ripped the tires off.
Yo, did you hold on? Yo, you want to say that again? Hold on.
Same happened to the 2011 Jeep Grand Cherokee. Only this
Dude's back tires jumped up and bounced. Like, oh my God.
Only this one actually ripped the tires off the rims. Watch here. Then the Porsche Macan had a different issue with the Moose test. It used a system that engaged the brakes on selected wheels to prevent rollovers, but this only created understeer, meaning that the Porsche failed the test anyway. Two of the most recent failures are for a different reason. The Volkswagen Passat GTE and the Skoda Superb are both cars that are hybrid versions on a combustion engine platform. So basically they have stuck a large battery in the boot of a car that wasn't designed to have a battery in the boot. Both cars failed the test when the rear kept losing grip and meaning the 43 miles an hour couldn't be reached before the car spun out. And it's thought this is down to the batteries being fitted in the rear of the car, making the handling tricky under cornering. This means that as the car turns in, the front grips and rotates the car, with the weight in the rear pushing the car into a spin.
Inertia.
Think of a big pendulum. And perhaps the most surprising is the BMW M3 Competition, a car that is made to be great on the track. And the problem here was that the car rotated perfectly, but the rear would slide around. This really does show that cars with brilliant handling aren't necessarily great for the Moose test. And on this occasion, I think a professional driver would have been able to do better here. But there you go. These failures do bring a lot of questions about the legitimacy of the test, and it certainly has its critics. However, most of the criticism is about the test not being carried out by a motoring testing agency, or the results being taken to mean more than they do. My main criticism is that it's very unnatural to be cornering like this without being on the brakes. The car is just rolling in the Moose test. The braking effect would actually place more weight on the front of the car and can aid grip, reducing the understeer that you see in a lot of the heavier cars. However, it is a test that pushes cars to their limits, and whilst it shouldn't be taken as the be-all and end-all, it does give an indication of a car's ability. Also, there have been a number of examples of manufacturers making changes to their cars as a direct result of failing this test. So clearly, they think there is something to it. There are some cars that you might not expect that really excel. The first being the Tesla Model X, an SUV that in principle is similar to the cars that we mentioned earlier. However, the Model X has placed its weight in the right place, in the floor and centered in the middle. This means that despite it being much heavier than some of its combustion
I want to see the Moose test in Fast and the Furious.
It can complete the test at up to 45.
Oh wow, that was
However,
actually kind of smooth.
Is the car that has held the record for over 20 years. Now you would have thought this is a light, nimble.
It's really good at cornering. Okay, so it can dodge a Moose, but it probably won't dodge a child.
Sports car, maybe a Lotus or a Porsche. But the thing is that supercars really don't perform that well in these tests, as they're tuned for perfect balance in longer corners. The winner is actually the mighty Citroën Xantia, a very normal family saloon from 1990.
Look at
and it achieved an incredible speed of 52.8
the most normal car.
Firstly, this car had a computer-controlled active suspension system, which was said to offer roll-free F1 style cornering like the famous Williams FW14B, a car that used hydraulic suspension that could adapt to every corner on a circuit. And where normal suspension would overload the outside wheels and lift the inside wheels, the Citroën could manage the load on each tyre, improving overall cornering grip. The Xantia is capable of almost instantaneously adjusting
your friend's parents picked them up from your house in that. Yeah.
And can do it.
I can smell this car.
A second. This means
it smells like stale McDonald's and simpler times.
In less than half a second. And all this means that the car actually leans into the corners and control the weight transfer perfectly, meaning it's never been beaten. We tested braking with and without ABS, just to see what the difference in performance was. And the results were actually very surprising. You can check out that video here. Thanks for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the Driven channel, and I'll see you in the next video.
I did enjoy it, just kind of out of curiosity, because I never knew there was like a test for this. Because obviously this isn't like a situation you'd find yourself in, but at the same time, this is an emergency situation, and every car should be prepped for an emergency situation. Like, I think there's even like emergency driving tests where like it teaches you how to like drift or do cornering in like rain and other stuff like that. I think that was an optional course. I definitely didn't do that, but I can drive a car, so watch yourselves. Ooh, this one. I didn't see this one entirely, so I'm not sure where this one's gonna go. This is from Luke Mayani, and converting an old Wii into an M1 Mac Mini. Yo, let's gut a Wii. Let's perform surgery on a Wii. Let's see how we did.
This is an M1 Mac Mini, and I think most of us would agree that it's one of the best deals that you can find in all of computing.
I don't know, man. The Microsoft Surface that I got for $100 on Black Friday was a pretty good deal. I don't know. My opinion, the Mac is the computer of time. It is a computer. That's all I got.
Essentially. But I think we'd also agree it's a little boring. This design has been around for more or less a decade. And I mean, it's fine.
Square.
What more could you want? It's a little square that sits on your desk. But this is the Luke Miani YouTube channel. And so if you think I'm just gonna sit here content with this, well, no.
Are we modding it?
Not even close.
Doctor Strange and the Computer of Time. Yeah, that does sound like a Doctor Strange movie. I hope he keeps the buttons
video
intact.
Is sponsored by Pulseway. Imagine having the power to remotely control any of your systems wherever you are. walking the dog, grocery shopping, on a date, or out hiking, Pulseway has got you covered. Pulseway's all-in-one IT monitoring and management system can turn you into the ultimate one-person IT hero. Troubleshoot, remotely manage, run scripts, or simply send commands to any of your systems from the device closest to you. You don't need to pack all your laptops and servers on any road trips anymore. Simply install Pulseway.
Oh god, Linus is on
Live your
there.
life while having complete control
I mean, it is.
over all IT
They did
systems.
sponsor stuff
And
like
the best
this
part,
as well.
you can
so.
try it free by checking out the link in the description below. There's no credit card or other commitment required. You just have to try Pulseway today and step your IT game up. So, a big thanks to them for sponsoring, and now let's get back into the video. So, as you might be able to guess, when my mind comes up with a little idea of saying, hey, Mac Mini inside a Wii, there is very little that I am physically capable of doing that would prevent me from just trying it. Now, that's not to say
wonder what'll
that
keep.
it's a bad idea, because, I mean, when you look at these two things, they are kind of similar. Sure, the Mac Mini is a little bit taller, but the width is about the same, the thickness is about the same.
If he guts the CD drive, I'm gonna be sad.
And one of my favorite
if he guts the
about
DVD drive,
Wii
I'm gonna be
is that it
very,
has
very sad.
These trap doors on top where you can plug in your controllers. So wouldn't it be nice if you put the rear I/O of the Mac Mini right over here, and then you could just use the I/O, and if you don't need it, you could close it up. How perfect would that be?
But
So
the
what more do
I/O is
you
on the
want?
back,
I mean,
though.
they're shaped kind of the same. The Mac Mini is a little taller, so maybe some stuff's not going to fit, but when has that stopped me? So yeah, let's do this thing. First step, well, we gotta tear down this Wii to see if this is even physically possible.
Yeah, because most of the. Alright, let's keep going. Come on. I think he's gonna have to gut the drive. I'm gonna be sad about
when you
it.
actually take all the guts out of a Wii, the case fits back together pretty easily, which means that we should be able to screw everything together with a Mac Mini inside instead. The Mac Mini, for its part, is very, very simple. With just about a dozen screws holding this entire device together,
Yeah,
I fixed its
it does take
electronics
a lot
repair
of it,
bundle,
though.
which happens to be on sale through all of November, has everything you need. From the T6
Oh,
and T8 screw bits to picks and spudgers that definitely help in some of those hard-to-reach areas. iFixit is a longtime sponsor of the channel, and I use their stuff every day. So now with the Mac Mini torn down, the parts list includes the shell, the plastic bottom cover, the metal antenna plate, the logic board
needs to
itself,
stay.
the power
That needs to
supply,
stay.
and the fan.
That can be
So to
external.
fit the guts of the Mac Mini inside
remember
the
if
Wii
you don't need
enclosure,
that.
we're going to need to make some modifications. There's just no way we're going to fit this massive power supply and bulky fan inside the tiny Wii enclosure. With this in mind, I can assemble a
I like
list
how
of
you could gut
requirements.
that and now like
First, we're gonna need a
30%
smaller
of the
fan
board's
to
gone.
keep temperatures from getting too high. Second, I'm gonna need to make a new power supply. Third, I decided it would be a good idea to run HDMI out the back of the Wii because having to plug it in from the top
Hello,
defeats the
Gunnar.
purpose of
Hello.
using the controller covers
Welcome.
to hide the ports. And with those requirements in mind, I started making some modifications to the case. First, the coin cell battery tray had to be glued down so it wouldn't fall out all the time. Next, I needed to fix the mechanisms that allow the controller doors to stay shut because those are on an internal frame that we removed. So I used some snipping tools to trim down these tiny clips that screwed back into their original holes and let the doors shut. Next, I had to grind away the top of the case
Coin
where the
cell.
controller ports
Isn't
are
that
molded
another
out
word
of
for crypto?
plastic to make room for the Mac Mini's I/O.
That's a
So
good
with
one.
the case modded, it was now time to figure out a solution for our power supply.
Bro,
Now,
Hold up, bro, hold up, bro, hold up. That isn't even straight. That cut isn't straight. Come on. I know you used to Dremel, but come on, man. When you put it like that, it looks like he telekinetically moved the case.
supply. Now, fortunately,
I think
I
it's fun, though.
benefited from working with Quinn from Snazzy Labs, who already modded his Mac Mini and provided the pinouts for
Oh
the
yeah.
connection. So we
I
opened
remember
up
this.
the
They made a
Mini's
smaller Mac Mini.
dramatically unnecessary 150 watt power supply so we could isolate the connector. After double checking everything with a multimeter, here's what we came up with. 6 of the wires, bundled in green, are the positive 12-volt line, and the black is our ground. And then there are a couple more wires that are not connected to anything, so they don't really need to be hooked up at all. We hooked this contraption up to a buck converter and checked if the system worked, and surprisingly, it did. So now we gotta figure out how to power the thing.
Huh.
Initially, I
Okay.
wanted to use USB-C to make things easier.
This is literally just coming off of 2 alligator clips directly into a PD board. Oh.
Oh.
But
Oh.
while it did power
USB
on, there were
PD?
issues with voltage and getting a clean signal. Plus, we wanted to keep the Wii look as stock as possible, so I had an idea.
Press
We
Plus like
already
one of the
had
few you
Wii
make
power
your own
socket
of
that we
since they're
pulled off the
analog.
board, so why not
I know,
just
right?
use that? The Wii power supply
Ooh.
is 12 volts at 53 watts, so under
Oh.
most cases, it should have enough power to run a humble Mac Mini, right? Well, with the Wii PSU plugged into the Wii socket, wired up to a buck converter, wired up to the
okay.
Mac Mini's wiring harness,
Okay.
it powered on. But there was a problem. 53 watts wasn't enough for the Mac Mini to be
Oh my
happy under peak load, so it was throttling its performance very heavily. So instead, I snipped the end of the Wii charger off, wired it
Oh.
up to a Microsoft Surface charger
Okay.
with plenty of wattage for us to use.
All right, I'm really excited about this because I am now at the point in this
Also, I'm like, calm down. Just
project where I've got the power delivery system more or less figured out. So a couple of things have changed.
he was splicing so
Number
many
one,
cables. I got
ended
so
up getting
concerned.
A buck converter that has some pretty big heat sinks on it. That's going to help with some.
Just
of the
watch out for
issues
those-
that I
yeah,
had
don't-
with the old ones that got really hot.
Tech tip: don't touch capacitors on a live circuit. Don't. You'll die. Don't. Don't.
And another issue that I was also having
Don't.
was the Mac Mini was getting really hot because we don't have room for its original cooling fan. So
Capacitors are
the
also one of the
solution
first
to
things to
that
go. True.
is I picked up this tiny little 12-volt fan, which happens to be the exact dimensions of the
Unless-
original cooling fan.
even
for
if
the
it's been-
Wii.
yeah,
All of
don't.
this is to say that we have created a beautiful monster. On this end here, we have a Surface charger, which I have spliced
have the
into
cap from
the
careful.
original power
No.
connector for the Wii. That
Oh, is your
connects
hand
over
okay?
here to the
Oi.
buck converter, which fires up the 12-volt fan. That's on constantly and is going to provide some airflow to hopefully keep things pretty cool. That then goes into the Mac Mini. We can power on the Mac Mini. There it goes. So now what we have to do is put all of this together.
The only thing I'm going to question is you have a fan, so you do have PWM control, so why not add that in? So what's he trying to do, incorporate a Mac Mini into a Wii case? Absolutely. That's what he's doing. That's the plan.
We have a modified Wii chassis. We have a modified power delivery solution, but we have to put all of these things together. So that
Please
meant learning how to
put a
3D
case in
print
that.
A
You
bracket to
you
mount
get
the Mac
the sort of
Mini
content we're here
inside
for.
the Wii.
Yeah.
And this being my first time 3D printing,
Projects
I
are
will admit
honestly
it
good
took a fair
good
amount of
audio.
prototypes.
Like maker content is very interesting to watch. Like the last stream we were watching someone make a pocket toaster. Like projects are good video content.
To get this working. But I finally settled on this design and I'm very happy with how it came out. Because basically,
tend to watch
the
programs, though. I
holes
do
on
prefer
this
watching when you're
square
getting
are
enthusiastic.
designed to fit perfectly over the screw
Depending on the
posts
project.
on the Wii
Okay,
console.
fair.
You don't need to screw them in or glue this thing down, it just fits with friction. Then there are two standoffs poking out of this thing which allow me to screw
I just like
the Mac
projects.
Mini logic board onto this guy. And they're positioned to take advantage
Oh.
of that ribbon cable you might have seen. Well, that is a very thin HDMI extension. So there's an L-shaped plug that plugs into the Mac
It's
Mini.
fun watching people-
And then
yeah,
we run
it
the
is fun to watch
cable
people, like, move
underneath
stuff.
this bracket and out the back of the Wii. And then finally,
actually,
this bracket has a rectangular hole which allows me to fit a fan in there.
Like in my opinion, like maker content like this is on the same tone as like shit posting. It's like the same idea.
Now, granted, I
Or
did have
feeling.
to chop the top of the housing off
Oh
to
God, what happened to you?
fit in the case, but we do have some amount of cooling now.
That's-
so in addition to printing that bottom bracket, I also
Speaking of fun,
printed
did you see the
this
400
ingenious little guy.
what?
It doesn't look like much, and it's not very well
what?
made because I'm not good at 3D printing. However, basically all you have to
The
do is
what?
double side tape this down where the power socket should be, and it holds it in place without needing any glue or tape.
That
So
electric
when you
piano thing was
assemble the
high
Wii
level shit.
together,
That is high level
you
shit
can plug
post.
stuff in, and the power port will just stay where it is. I'm actually pretty happy with how that came out. I don't mean to toot my own horn here, but that was pretty cool. Okay, so now everything is assembled.
It
Here we have the charger.
fits.
Let's go ahead and plug that in. The fan starts up right away. We'll hit the power button here.
Only part I'm frustrated about is
There it goes. Nice. I have to say, I'm really pleased with how this came out, but there is still one issue I would like to solve. If you look really
it's a much more
closely, you'll
elaborate
notice
version
that
of tablet.
our connection really isn't very good. And that's because the Mac Mini has
Backyard
three antenna bands.
Hold on, I want to say
Two
this. The backyard scientist makes his own ammonium perchlorate composite. What in the hell? Backyard scientist is on some crazy shit.
of which are on the logic board itself. But unfortunately, the third antenna is on this metal bottom plate, and this
Actually, hold on. Before I want to do this, I want to give a criticism. Okay. Okay, so this is the layout, right? And this fan was cut for... The thing I'm looking at, the thing I'm like weirded out about is why is this is clearly the intake and that's clearly the outtake, right? And you have a flow path, like you just go whoop, but in and out to improve the cooling. So why is the fan here? I understand the purpose of the fan is to blow air through this heatsink and out, but at the same time, this needs cooling, even though it is large. It's still, you might as well have cooling for it. And he does have a 3D printer. He could have put another microfan. Yeah, no, what I'm saying is he has a 3D printer. There's a fan input right here, and there's a way you could make a flow path. Why, at this point... Yeah, what I'm saying is he should make a shroud that goes from here through the buck converter to the output and out. It solves all the problems about the cooling, and it uses more original parts of the Wii. Like the original path here. Because, like, this is weird as hell. Because this guy's gonna get choked. This guy will choke on air. I mean, it's a Mac Mini, but it's still capable enough to throttle without that fan. Also, yeah, it is an absolutely bizarre fan placement. Like, he could have also gotten another slimmer, probably 12 volt fan, plopped it here and cooled it at the same, probably in a better way than this guy that he had to cut. I don't know, man. Like, you can get like a laptop fan, just plop it here, just you're done. I'm gonna hope that this is not the finished version, but we'll see how this goes.
Okay, so now everything is assembled. Here we have the charger. Let's go ahead and plug that in. The fan starts.
Because also, at the same time, you have a ton of just kind of spots here that you could put for I/O. Like, there's this section down here for the controller board, the, what is this, composite, and then there's, like, USB plugs. Like, you have places to put stuff in. The time the CPU fan got messed up. Terrible grinding noise. Ah, yes. I love the fan, terrible fan
We'll hit the
grinding
power
noises. They're
button
my
here.
favorite. I don't like them.
There it goes.
Sensibilities.
Nice. I have to say, I'm really pleased with how this came out, but there is still one issue I would like to solve. If you look really closely, you'll notice that our connection really isn't very good. And that's because the Mac Mini has 3 antenna bands, 2 of which are on the logic board.
With the router
itself.
he would
But
incorporate a
unfortunately,
modded plate
the
to allow
third
better
antenna
integration
is
and put
on
them
this metal bottom plate, and
The funny thing is that this motherboard is on a plate that is basically the interface between the Wii's standoffs and the Mac Mini standoffs.
this just is not going to fit. Now, I could destroy this bottom plate and take the antenna out and plug it in here, but I kind of don't want to destroy this because I want to be able to reassemble the Mac Mini. So I have another plan. This is
Why did you do this and not want to reassemble the Mac Mini? You put it in a Wii case. It's not if it's just a let's just see if we can put these two together. It's not let's turn turn X into Y. This is apparently a temporary thing. No, so I'm not gonna bash on him too much, but I'm like, you did make the entire project. And you have the tools to go super duper all the way with it. You totally just should.
one of the original antennas from the Wii. And wouldn't you know it, the connector is exactly the same as what the Mac Mini uses. Can we
It's a standard connector.
improve the
It's a
responsiveness
standard.
of our Bluetooth accessories and increase the Wi-Fi speeds? Well, to find out, let's get a baseline reading. So before even starting the test, it's very apparent that the mouse is having trouble connecting over Bluetooth. It's jumping, it's stuttering. It's not even really usable in my opinion. Now, the Wi-Fi does work, and it actually works fairly well. So we got 270 megabits per second download. However, when we plug in the antenna pulled from the Wii, things change dramatically.
My gecko
First
came
of all,
out
you
of his
can
hide, so
instantly
in
tell
Avalon
the
with-
difference
Nice.
in responsiveness from the mouse.
Thank you
and
for the
keyboard.
gecko
It just
update.
works perfectly. And when we start the speed test, you can see that
I
we're
appreciate
jumping
the
up
gecko
from
update.
279 to well over 400 megabits per second. So with all this sorted out, we now have a fully operational Mac Mini inside a Wii housing. All we have to do is close this thing up and make it nice and polished.
Please polish it. Wait. I just realized the crime. He was worried about cooling, but the outtake is where the I/O is, and it's covered by this metal plate. Or not this plastic sheet right there. This MacBook is choking in there. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Like it's you could have put a grate or something. No, the problem is that that's where the I/O is.
This is easily my favorite project that I've ever done on this channel.
Impressive. Now
I'm
it looks like it's
absolutely blown away with how
You know the sad part? The power button doesn't work. The reset button doesn't work. It's just a cosmetic shell. There's an SD card reader in here. He could have done something with that.
everything turned out here. I mean, normally when I do this type of project, it ends up being a little janky and let's
Okay, at least he used the... I'm worried about the comment section. You know what? Let's look at the comment section. Yeah. Recommended improvements. Wire up the front button. Add a second fan for exhaust. Duh. Connect the blue lightning from the original Wii drive for aesthetics. Oh, that would have been so fucking cool of an idea. Or hey, look, the standard comment that I meant. It would be great if you could link the Wii's power button. Oh, hey, a comment. I should have mentioned, but I did intend to wire the power button LED relay around the Mac Mini drive. Two problems though. One, the LED uses a very weak 3-volt one that immediately overloaded and died. And the problem with the power button is that it's not actually a button. The front plate just has a plunger that pushes a button attached to the actual Wii board. Thus, in order to rework the Wii fashion to a traditional button assembly, and then wire that onto the 4-pin ZIF connector on the Mac Mini. It ended up being a bit much for a project where the power button normally is still accessible, but also it kills the fun of it. Also, the LED used is a very weak 3-volt one. That's not how voltage works, or that's not how this works. It immediately overloaded and died. You know what a buck converter is, dude. You totally could have could have gotten a buck converter that can do 5, 12, and 3.3 volts. You could have saved it. It'd be limited to SCHD. I mean, I'm not saying to wire the entire thing. You can. Doesn't the Mac Mini have an SD reader slot? Like, you can get an extension and then wire it up here. A lot of it's like you can reorient this and move the I/O all around the Wii. That's a lot of extension cables though for a project, but I don't know. I wonder if there's a different version of doing this. Hold on. Because because I know the one from Snazzy Labs hold on. Computer in a should be interesting. PC build in a Wii Part 1. You're gonna the problem with this is that you're also going to see a lot of content of just run, Windows on the Wii.
Hey guys, welcome to some of the other miscellaneous.
I'm just speeding through this. Let's see here.
Which is a bit of a problem I needed to do.
Oh, just reminding me.
MX Saber, because you stick.
Oh, he's taking RAM out. Okay.
12 meg.
Fairly Grocery Manager is putting a PC.
So here we are.
Ooh, nice.
Here, working Windows on a computer.
Oh, hey, look. Look! It has USB ports. Effort! Look at the effort! I don't know what the You put the memory card in. It's a big-ass memory card. Even better, this has dual monitor support. It's kind of, and Ethernet support. I think the power switch is at the bottom, which is kind of a shame, but let's see. What? Oh! He did it! He wired the power button! And it runs Windows 10. Oh, don't even tell. Hold up. Hold up. Yo! Yo, it works. And the light works. Okay, hold on. Some pictures from the case mod. Still, I mean, he had to use a Dremel, but this is good. I want to see the internals. Come on. 4 years ago. That's not too bad. Oh, wow. Actually, you know what? That board is about the same that we had for the Mac Mini. See? Look, he did... Look, the fan's even in the right spot. And all the effort is basically just rewiring all this shit to put it in the right spot. That's real good. The disk drive is my favorite part. See, this guy knows what he's doing. That was very good. It's good content. I trust modders more to do things like this. All right. Ooh, the first ever smart light bulbs. That's what. Hello, Tech Tips, man. Smart light bulb video.
Smart bulbs are all the rage these days, but the idea of making an intelligent light bulb is actually a lot older than you might think. Here I have 3 of the first ever smart bulbs introduced by Philips in 1994, and they can do more useful things.
These bulbs
than
are
just glow
older
with
than
different
me.
colors. They were
I
sold
hear.
under the name IQ Lighting. It was based on a development by Beacon Technology. The Chicago Tribune wrote about these bulbs in their May 29, 1994 issue with the headline, Smart Lighting. They said that Philips IQ lighting bulbs were sold at Sears and other large grocery and home center stores, and they cost about $4 to $5 each. They had several different varieties of these, more than just the 3
$5.
I have here. This one is a dimmer bulb, the light that works like a dimmer switch. Here it says, welcome to the IQ lighting series from Philips. The dimmer has a microchip built into the base of the bulb, which allows you to select 4 light levels in any socket. You can choose the perfect amount of light for any task or mood without having to install special wiring or fancy fixtures, and also lasts twice as long as standard incandescent bulbs.
Technology.
The directions are simply placed into any regular lamp or wall fixture. When first turned on, the highest light level will appear. To change to lower levels, simply turn the light switch off and on again. If the bulb stays unlit for any 10-minute period, the microchip will automatically reset itself to the highest level. And here it mentions that the technology in this bulb was developed by Beacon Light Products for its brand of computerized light controller components inside this product. And they list 2 patent numbers. The first patent was filed on April 28, 1989. The inventor was Samuel A. Johnson of Eagle, Idaho.
You are all weirdos. Ugh.
And it shows the schematic of the circuitry inside the light bulb. Notice it mentions a microprocessor. And yes, indeed, if we look in the text, it says the device is a single chip 4-bit microcontroller being readily commercially available, having internal random access memory, RAM, read-only memory, ROM, and input-output drivers. The many possible operating modes of the complete power controller and the controller responses to momentary interruptions in the applied AC voltage are determined by the computer program resident in internal ROM. And if we look at the second patent,
hope it's a
also
Z80.
filed
All right,
by
okay.
Samuel A.
You're thinking
Johnson
too hard.
of Beacon Light Products in 1990, it shows how they were able to fit that microchip and the rest of the circuitry into the base of the light bulb, right in the bottom where it screws into the socket. And in the diagram here, we can see number 11 is the microchip.
Woo.
So yes, these light bulbs have a built-in microchip
Tiny little microchip
right here in
there.
the base, which is basically a computer. It has RAM and ROM and input and output, and it runs a computer program telling the light bulb what to do. And this may look like an odd shape for a light bulb, but Philips was no stranger to making odd-shaped light bulbs. For example, in the 1980s, they had square light bulbs.
It's time
Why?
to change your light bulb. Philips Longer Life Square bulbs last 33% longer than ordinary round bulbs.
But
It's
this
square.
diamond-shaped design wasn't their own idea. It was actually GTE Sylvania who came up with that idea in the early 1980s. and they called these the capsulite bulbs. I have a few of those. Halogen capsulite. So that was Sylvania's idea, which Philips copied. So let's try out this IQ Lighting dimmer bulb with the built-in computer chip in the base. I'm going to put it into this desk lamp here and turn it on, which is the maximum brightness. My watt meter is showing
Yeah, it is pretty
103
very impressive
watts.
miniaturization. It's
Now,
so
if I
small.
turn it off,
Like even nowadays, like
back
this is the
on,
size of what? Like a
it
like a
dims
quarter?
down to
smaller.
around 83 watts. It said 70 watts, so that's a little bit higher than what they said. Then we should get the next step of dimming if we turn it off and on again. And that is around 65 watts, which they said should be 40 watts. Then once again, turn it off, turn it on again, and this should be the final stage of dimming, which I'm reading 45 watts, which they said should be 20 watts. So we're not quite matching the wattages claimed on the packaging. So now if I turn it off and back on again, we're back to full brightness and 103 watts. So it does work as intended, it just doesn't quite match the
Oh man, we talked about
advertised
old
wattages.
Motorola
Next we have the
microcontrollers.
IQ Lighting 6-hour timer bulb.
Y'all are nerds. That's why I
Turns
love
itself on
watching
and
stuff
off
like this
each day.
with you guys. You guys know more
Perfect
than I
for
do
home
sometimes.
security.
It's cool.
It's a 60-watt bulb, and I'll show you at the top of the bulb here. It says timer 6-hour Philips 60-watt 120 volt. And there's that computer chip built into the base. It says Beacon, the company that invented it. 6H stands for 6-hour timer bulb. This one says the timer has a built-in microchip that will automatically turn the bulb on at the desired time and off after 6 hours. Ideal for post lanterns, porches, garages, living rooms, bedrooms, and other suitable locations where you desire security and safety.
Wait, hold on.
Directions are turn the light on at the time. Ideal for post lantern.
Hold on. It turns itself on for 6 hours every day. Posting that out of context.
Porches, garages, living rooms, bedrooms, and other suitable locations where you desire security and safety. Directions are turn the light on at the time you would like it to go on every day. It will automatically shut off 6 hours later and will repeat the function each day until you reset it. 1 minute prior to shutting off, the light will blink. If you like to turn it off before 6 hours, simply turn off the switch and then back on to the on position. The bulb is controlled by the microchip, not by the switch, so it will remain off until the preset time the following day. You can also turn on the light at any time without having to reset it. Simply turn the switch off and then on. The light will remain on for 2 hours or until you turn it off. To reset the starting time, turn off then on at desired time. So this one's a little bit more complicated in its operation. It's kind of limited
The
by
logic
the fact that the only way to
It's so hard.
control this is by turning it off and back on again. That's the only way you can control that microchip. I'm not going to make you wait 6 hours to watch this bulb turn off, so I set up a time lapse. So let's take a look at that now.
We literally are watching a light bulb.
And the time lapse was too fast to catch it, but a minute before it turned off, it did blink twice. And as advertised on the carton,
did
the
it!
6-hour timer bulb turned itself back on exactly 24 hours later. Philips also sold a 30-minute
did it.
timer IQ lighting bulb, which is the same idea as the 6-hour timer version I demonstrated, except obviously it shuts off after 30 minutes. And one thing you may notice about these bulbs is how they slowly increase in brightness when you turn them on. It sort of fades on. That's how they were able to get these to last twice as long as a regular incandescent light bulb, because I'm sure we've all seen many light bulbs that just give you a bright flash when you first turn them on and they burn out instantly. That's because of the high amount of inrush current going into the bulb's filament. When it starts to get weak, that's a common cause of it burning out. So by slowly increasing the brightness, it helps to avoid that. And that's how these are able to last a lot longer. And this one claims 60 watts. It's drawing 64 watts. So that's pretty close. And the final IQ lighting bulb I have to demonstrate here is the Nightlight Plus bulb. Dims to a nightlight over 20 minutes. They say the Nightlight Plus operates like an ordinary 60-watt light bulb. However, it can dim down to a nightlight level with a flick of a switch. And the directions say simply turn the light on and you will have a standard 60-watt light. Turn the light off and on again and it will dim down to a nightlight level over 20 minutes. To bypass the dimming process, turn the light off and on for a third time and it will immediately turn into a nightlight. And this one has by far the slowest fade up of brightness when you first turn it on.
Wow.
Takes a couple seconds, but there it is at full brightness, 63.5 watts.
Good night. Have a nice time at work,
as the
Lunar.
instructions said, you
Bye-bye.
turn it off and turn it back on, and now it's going to slowly fade down to a nightlight over 20 minutes, but immediately it's already dimmer.
Oh no, Putty's
at
missing. Oh no,
44
there's Putty.
watts.
Yay. Hello.
And then once again you can turn it off, turn it back on, and now it's in the nightlight mode, which is not a very energy efficient nightlight because it's pulling about 18 watts, and you can see it's pretty dim. I have my camera on manual exposure, and if you want it to return to full brightness, you can just turn it off and turn it back on again. And once again, it slowly fades up to full brightness.
It's making a
So once
frequency
again,
that you can
instead of
hear.
letting you wait for 20 minutes to see it dim down, I'll use a time lapse.
It's dimming.
I'm sure
Wow,
people today are
it
programming
worked.
their smart bulbs to slowly fade down to a nightlight level when they're getting ready to go to bed, but Philips was doing it here in 1994. One disadvantage of these bulbs that's mentioned on the packaging, it says the electronic module in the nightlight, or any of these bulbs, may contribute to minor AM radio interference. And I
That's
can demonstrate that here.
Very interesting,
Turn on
honestly.
my AM radio to a weak station, and turn on the light.
Oh. 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 Oh man, that's
As for why these
that's a lot of
smart
interference.
bulbs didn't catch on, I can think of several reasons. First was simply their high price. People weren't willing to spend $4 for a single light bulb when you can get a pack of 4 regular light bulbs for less than that price. Also, because the only way you have
God, it's
to
like when I put
control
my phone
this
too close
bulb
when I'm
is by
streaming.
turning the power on and
Yeah.
off in a certain sequence. That means their functionality is not immediately apparent to anyone who is not familiar with the light bulb and may cause undesired results, such as the light bulb unexpectedly dimming down or turning itself off when the person operating it did not intend it to. And although these claimed to last twice as long as a regular incandescent light bulb, it's still eventually going to burn out when you might rather just have that computer chip on its own to insert into a light bulb socket that you could put any regular light bulb into and have the same functionality.
Oh, that
And
would have
at
been
the same time, in
smart.
1994, that's exactly what you could get. The same technology from Beacon was also licensed by the Angelo Brothers Company, better known as ABCO, and instead of making it into a complete light bulb, they designed it as an insert to put underneath a regular light bulb to turn it into a smart bulb. They called it the Bulb Boss. It's described here in this Tampa Bay Times article
Conversion
as a microprocessor computer chip module that attaches to the base of an existing incandescent bulb. And they mentioned the same functions as the Philips IQ lighting bulbs, such as the night light, the four-way dimmer, and the automatic shutoff function. They said no tools or wiring are required. You attach the bulb boss to the base of the bulb and screw the bulb into your standard base socket. The bulb performs normally until you activate its bulb boss function by turning the switch off and on. They said the modules will last about 10 years and will make bulbs last twice as long, and they cost about $9 at hardware stores and home centers. So that's been a look at the first ever smart bulbs introduced by Philips in 1994, the IQ lighting series, with a built-in computer chip. A very advanced technology for its time, but the market just wasn't ready for it yet.
Oh, the magic's gone. The minute the lights go out, you fall asleep.
It's kind of just cool. Oh, hey, look at that. The only thing is, like, I'm very curious. I'm actually curious about the microcontroller that was used in it. But, like, that's pretty good for 1994. And the only input literally being a change in voltage. Let me see here. So I think the next video we're going to be doing is going to be a two-parter. All right, there we go. So this is the fun one of a TV gadget that censors bad words, and then hacking said TV gadget that uses bad words. I will be right back, though. I need to use the Little Witch's room. Why is it so high up? Hold on. Why is it so high up there? Come back. Okay, I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back, so you don't have to listen to the music anymore. Where am I? Here I am. Where's the widget? There goes the widget. Alright. So, back in the days when you couldn't just say anything you really wanted, and you had to use a censor button to cover your ass? Oh, hold on. Cover your... What did they do? Let's find out. I love Technology Connections. They make the most interesting videos about just tiny little weird things. Tiny little weird guys.
It's November.
It's December.
You know what that means. Hello and welcome to No Effort November, a series of videos for the month of November in which no effort is made. Are you a prude who can't bear the thought of your children being exposed to naughty language in movies and television, but you just can't bear the thought of missing out on watching stuff as a family? Are you looking for a technological solution to free you from the guilt of exposing your kids to bad words?
Yes, I am
Is
an
it 1998? Well then, have I got the solution for you, the TV Guardian. This amazing device attaches to any ordinary television set and transforms that foul-mouthed boob tube into a proper G-rated gentleman. Mostly. How does it work? State-of-the-art technology, of course. The TV Guardian filters out foul language from cable or satellite TV.
Love that. I love that it's he found it at a Goodwill for $8.
And home video sources like VHS tapes, DVDs, and let's not forget Laserdiscs. Simply disconnect the video source from your TV and connect it to the Guardian. Then connect the Guardian to your TV, and now you can watch TV as a family without worrying about an F-bomb absolutely ruining your night. How does it work? State-of-the-art technology, of course. Didn't I just say that? Let's begin with a look at this gadget. The device itself is pretty simple, with two complete sets of composite video and audio jacks, which are helpfully labeled right, left, and video, but you'll have to guess which one is the input and which one's the output. There's also a coaxial RF out for old-school TV sets, and another RF connection above it, which is unlabeled. There's a DC barrel plug for the power supply, which they did bother to specify as 9 volts 100 milliamps DC, but forgot to finish the diagram for plug polarity. Helpful. We also find two 3-position switches for changing settings.
Looks like
we'll get back to those.
if you get the wrong
Lastly,
adapter,
there's
it's going
one
to set
more
itself on
switch tucked
fire.
way behind a hole at the top of this panel,
there's Pearl
which is
Simi
once
commercial for
again
this.
unlabeled. They did a bang-up job.
You
here.
saw this as a kid?
That's the channel 3
Yo.
or 4 selector for the RF.
I almost feel
modulator,
sorry.
which you'd know if you
Because
bought
that means
it
you were
with
watching
the
some
manual.
weirdo television.
Now, I know that this was likely a fairly low volume product, and it's also 20 plus years old, but the cheapness of the construction here cannot be stressed enough. This looks and feels like an electronics project box. And frankly, if it weren't for the TV Guardian branding...
Like, if you saw commercials for this, you were watching a channel where the marketers thought they could put it on here and be a fit. So, like, you know the types.
I'd think it literally was an off-the-shelf electronics project box. Of course, there is a custom circuit board in here.
Nonsense when the Dick Van Dyke Show came on.
But yeah, even this is pretty basic. Just a few chips and an off-the-shelf modulator, essentially.
I believe they
That's
actually
because this thing is using much of the
corrected
same
it for
componentry
like
you'd
people's
find in
names,
all
but we'll,
sorts of contemporary
I think we're getting ahead of ourselves.
It's just got a bit of a trick up its sleeve. The device uses our old friend closed captioning to watch out for profanity. Since I already made a video on
It's
that
like
topic,
early,
I won't
yeah.
go deep into it here. Plus, it is November. But in the US, starting in the 1980s, television broadcasts and home video formats began regularly incorporating closed captioning in the form of a hidden data stream across the length of line 21 in the analog video signal. Line 21 is near the end of the vertical blanking interval, which is a string of blank lines that help an analog television draw the image. While you're not supposed to be able to see it, in the digital age, we are starting to find parts of it pop out occasionally, like here in Frasier. These blinky dashes are encoding text and basic formatting, and they get extracted as high-low pulses by a television set or a separate device and decoded to generate text atop the image. This was a way to add captioning for those who desired it, without making it part of the broadcast image, hence the name closed captioning. Now, an older analog television like this one, mindlessly drawing glowing lines on the face of a cathode ray tube over and over again, doesn't process what it's doing, and this picture tube actually draws the lines, blinky dashes and everything. But they're getting drawn outside the visible area, somewhere like here. That's thanks to overscan. The actual image is blown out just a bit beyond the edges of the screen, which was necessary due to the vagaries of analog video and since most picture tubes didn't have perfectly rectangular faces.
Gamers know what overscan
So you weren't
is.
ever going to see this data stream unless there was something wrong with your television set. But modern displays, what with their neat grids of pixels and discrete resolutions, generally don't stretch the image they are told to display beyond their borders. Some do for silly reasons, which makes using them as a computer monitor very annoying until you find the just scan setting buried in the menus, but for the most part, a modern display or television will show the entirety of whatever you throw at it. And some less than careful analog to digital transfers have gotten done over the years, which captured part of the vertical blanking interval. That's what's happening in this episode of Frasier. Whoever did the transfer didn't take care to ensure the 480 rows of pixels they'd capture from the 525 lines of video started at, like, line 23 or 24. Or perhaps they just thought Overscan was going to live on forever. Anyway, back to the TV Guardian. Baked into its programming is a dictionary of offensive words and phrases which, for science, I'd love to see, but it's not written anywhere in the manual. Aw, shucks. Now, when it's turned on and active, it decodes the captioning data from line 21. If it finds a match with one of those objectionable things in its dictionary, the Guardian jumps into action and mutes the audio to protect the innocent. That's what it does. Now, I may sound like I'm making fun of
Be
this
curious
little
if it
gadget,
censors stuff like
and I
homosexual.
must admit
I'm
that
pretty
this
sure it
particular form
does.
of parental control seems a bit odd to my ears, but the way it's done is
We're getting ahead of ourselves, but later on we will actually look at the censor list.
actually pretty
It's
clever.
for fun.
Here, let's all settle down as a wholesome family and watch Goodfellas together with the Guardian turned on. Profanity is definitely the only possibly objectionable part of that movie, right? So far, it looks like a typical movie-going experience. But watch what happens here.
Jimmy. What's up? Did I hear something? What?
Not only was the audio muted, but when that happened, the closed captioning was placed on screen so it can be read and stand in for the missing dialogue. And that
kinda nice,
captioning was altered
honestly.
to remove the offensive word. In this case, fudge. But it didn't simply remove the word, it also took out the. What the fudge is that became simply, what is that? This sort of word swap or rephrasing is done whenever necessary, and it's sometimes pretty good at keeping the context intact. Like, for instance, in this scene.
How could I go back to school after that? Pledge allegiance to the flag.
Good government bull excrement was replaced with good government baloney.
For us to live any other way was nuts.
Here, the line, to us, those good people who work shirt-y jobs, got turned into who work crud jobs.
Crud.
Cruddy would have been a better fit, but still, not bad. As much as this is clever, it's really doing this because of a limitation stemming from how the captions work. Captioning data is sent in spurts, which encode all the text to be displayed on screen, and where to place it. Entire sentences are often displayed at once. In fact, a call and response between two characters is sometimes on screen. The text will stay there until the next spurt of data is received, which either contains more text and formatting or says to clear it. So, if a chunk of captioning data contains a bad word or phrase, the TV Guardian knows it will be spoken at some point the text is displayed, but it doesn't know exactly when. So the only thing it can do is mute the audio for the entire time that caption block appears on the screen.
Truly a working with what you had type situation.
It's not even fair. No. You don't understand.
As removing an
try.
entire sentence or more could very easily cause you to lose the plot, it has little choice but to display the text with the objectionable parts altered. Now that is an optional feature. One of the two option switches we haven't talked about yet is labeled caption, and you can choose between on, cuss, and off. So far we've seen it in the cuss setting, but if you like, you can move the switch to off, using a tiny screwdriver or something because they're recessed in a way which I can't decide if was deliberate for parental control reasons or just bad design. And that will simply have it mute the audio, and leave you wondering what was said. I don't know why
Wonderful
you'd want that,
feature.
but you can do it. You can also have it
Great
leave captions
feature.
on continuously, leaving nice and friendly phrases unaltered, but whenever someone uses a mouth which makes you wonder if they kissed their mother with it, it'll cut the audio out and make whatever alterations to the written dialogue it sees fit. You can also choose how strict you want the filtering to be. If phrases like "my God" bother you, you'll want the extra strict enforcement turned on. But if you're just a little bit more lenient, you can choose the mild setting, which lets such religious adjacent phrases through, in addition to some less objectionable potty mouth words.
Poop.
Now, these are printed in the manual.
Hey,
I won't read
funny
them all
words.
off, but it includes such bangers as balls, wuss, up yours, forms of screw.
Forms of screw. Oh God, my God, God, Jesus Christ, sucks, crap, butt, balls, HE double hockey sticks. I love this phrase, forms of screw.
And even HE double hockey sticks. And if you only care that your children don't hear these words, but you yourself are in for a good profanity-laden evening,
Oh boy,
you also turn off the filtering altogether.
I love profanity.
Now, it's probably obvious, but this method has a few key weaknesses. We've already discussed how it has to mute entire sentences or more, but to reiterate, it has to mute entire sentences or more. And its decisions on how to fill in what it censors are good most of the time, but can also be really weird or even just bad. Here's a list of all the examples that I've found. I'll try to keep this family-friendly, folks, but you might not agree with all my decisions here, so just be warned.
You kept
We
that to yourself till you're
already established
15?
that excrement turns
Honestly,
into
pretty good.
crud.
Good job.
But if it's phrased as, oh shirt, then it becomes, oh man. Pretty good. The phrase that rhymes
context.
with missed off gets changed to teed off, or just teed.
Teed?
Prick becomes jerk. Bastard also turns into jerk.
That's fine.
Rock sucker was also turned into jerk. There's a lot of jerks. But
So many
slut,
jerks.
well, that turned into flirt. It's fine with moron. That's cool with The Guardian. The N-word simply becomes ellipses, which, yeah, that's probably for the best. A word now commonly considered a slur became simply gay. So the caption, "He's treating me like a gay," popped up here. Interesting.
Okay.
And then on the strict
It sort of
balls
works.
gets turned into tail, which is funny because that word can also just mean balls or be a name, as happened here. Oh, and the exclamation, "my God," becomes man, which I guess that's fine.
Man!
But then there's the F-bomb.
Oh, let's go.
Any sailor
Context.
mouth knows that particular word can mean many things, and results to censor it will vary. Here's a decent example. Maybe it's me. I'm a little forked up. Turns into maybe it's me. I'm a little messed up. Great work. That worked fine. And it did a pretty good job earlier when it removed the in what the fudge is that. But if it's ever phrased as a verb, The Guardian likes to change it to wow. Like you'll wow everything up or go wow yourself. I mean, okay.
Verbs.
If it sees forkin, the word just gets removed and an errant apostrophe is left behind. And it appears to change some instances to go away, which makes sense for fork off, I guess. But go away your mother doesn't really mean anything intelligible. That's a total fail. Oh, and trucker is another word that becomes jerk. But even if it made perfect decisions all the time, it first relies on closed captioning to be A, there in the first place, B, accurate and not itself censored,
Mother
C,
jerk.
properly timed and in sync with the speech. By the time this thing was released, most everything had closed captions in it. But with the rise of the DVD, some studios went rogue.
Uncle
And in
jerk.
fact, the manual calls out Universal
good.
for doing this. See, DVD players are capable of injecting their own Line 21 captioning data, so analog TVs hooked up to them can decode it on their own. Here's an example with The Birdcage, another film which I'm sure in the eyes of a TV Guardian buyer would be completely unobjectionable if only it didn't have cuss words.
I don't know this movie.
But of course, DVD players could also display closed captions themselves, and far more capably, offering captions in multiple languages, commentary tracks, and in any style, font, or color the publisher
Oh, hey, it's
desired.
Robin Williams.
Universal, it seems, deemed
I
the
feel like that's not a
newfound
good thing.
capabilities of DVD enough to negate the need for old-fashioned Line 21 caption support in their releases, at least circa 2000. So for Universal's DVDs, The Guardian has no idea what's being said, and it's F-bombs galore. Another issue comes from captions which don't exactly match the dialogue. This is actually quite common, usually when dialogue is fast-paced.
It was there that I knew that I belonged. And to me, it meant being somebody in a neighborhood that was full of nobodies. They weren't like anybody else. I mean, they did whatever they wanted. They double parked in front of a hydrant and nobody ever gave them a ticket. In the summer, when they played cards all night, nobody ever called the cops.
For instance, in Goodfellas, The Guardian correctly catches that terrible version of ticked when Henry's narration says, "My father was always ticked off." But just after this, Henry repeats he was ticked at the beginning of 3 separate phrases in something of a run-on sentence. The captioning is structured more loosely though, with the offending word only placed in the beginning of that sentence. So the audio is unmuted and the last one is missed.
Was in a wheelchair. He was pissed that there were 7 of us living in such a tiny house.
Whoops,
there it
somebody
is.
think of the children?
Whoops.
Then, of course, what if whoever wrote the captions was a prude who censored them?
Prudes.
Instead of actually writing out HE double hockey sticks, they could have written H asterisk asterisk asteroid. Now, doing that is very bad captioning practice. After all, if adults are choosing to see a movie with profanity and rely on captions, they're not seeing the movie they chose to see if the captions are censored. So in the grand scheme, that should be rare. But oh, the sweet irony of a prudish transcription causing profanity to slip through the TV Guardian. Lastly, there's caption timing. Live events rely on stenographers furiously stenographering what's spoken, and that leads to a substantial delay in the captions. So, better hope those sportscasters aren't potty mouths. Scripted content is generally better, but it's not perfect. The Guardian let quite a few things slip through in Goodfellas. To be fair, they don't claim perfection on the box.
Virtually
Another
all.
somewhat odd choice
Okay,
was
tried.
an inability to censor any RF source. There is a coaxial input, but this is just a pass-through, and as a matter of fact, this shipped with a red cover over the top connection, and there's a note in the manual that basically says, "Don't use this." Yes, it has a
Why?
built-in RF modulator for outputting to older TVs, but the censoring function only works on the composite input. So if you want this to work with live TV,
Why didn't they
you'll
remove
either
it?
need to have satellite or cable, or you'll need to use your VCR's TV tuner for over-the-air broadcasts from now on, and hope your kids don't figure that part out. I imagine this was mainly a cost-cutting measure, but it still seems silly. Oh, and since there's only one input, well, that gets fun when you have a cable box, a VCR, and a DVD player, and you'd like them all to be Guardianed. Better hope your VCR is fancy enough to have 2 inputs, and then you can run everything through it. But if you're not so lucky, you'll need some sort of video switcher. The manual even says as much.
This already sounds like a
The
terrible
limitations we just went
setup.
over are all technical ones, though. There's also a pretty glaring conceptual hurdle. I chose Goodfellas and The Birdcage to demonstrate this because I have a feeling the sort of person who bought the TV Guardian might object to some of the visuals and themes in those films. Just a hunch. The TV Guardian can't do anything about the content or what's on the screen. It can only ever be a pretty good, but not perfect, profanity filter. So I'm somewhat perplexed by the perceived value here. You're still going to need to screen for whatever you might not want your kids seeing. I suppose there's a lot of content out there which is otherwise pretty tame, but which has a few sailor mouth moments. But
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Are you telling me, as a parent, that I have to monitor what my kids are watching and I just can't let technology do it for me instead? What a terrible product. I have to do work. I have to be a parent. Ridiculous.
it's really only that middle ground that this can do anything for. And if I may be so bold, if you're that worried about your kids hearing the occasional bad word, well, you better not let them leave the house. That was a joke. Just want to be clear. But yeah, there's a lot of profanity outside of television. Hate to break it to you. Still though, as much as I think this is silly and not at all for me, I will tip my hat to it for being pretty clever. And if you think there's some merit in this idea, or maybe you know someone in your life who would have loved one of these, well, I have good news. This company still exists, and they make HDMI versions now, so you can guard your Netflix.
It still works.
Except not actually. Yeah, they're still relying on Line 21 captions. Probably because HDMI doesn't actually carry captioning data. The website makes it pretty clear that whatever you're plugging into the new versions of this still needs to have a composite video output for it to work.
Imagine
so
that in
HDMI
2022.
video feed is, I guess, just
Yikes.
a pass-through that it draws captions on top of. I don't know. I'd investigate further, but this is No Effort November. Before I go, I want to do 2 more things. First, I want to thank my longtime patron Colin for sending this thing to me. It's very much not either of our jams, but it certainly is an intriguing use of closed captioning. And second, well, I think it's time I finally ripped the band-aid off about a certain video topic I promised.
It'd be fun for friends
In
by
my
messing with
video
the
on
filter.
closed
In theory, yeah.
I said I'd be making a video on teletext. And I said I'd do that soon. That was almost 4 years ago. So what happened? Well, I don't think I'm the right person to tell that story. I've never used it, and as such, I really have no enthusiasm or nostalgia for it.
Oh, Rose, you're going
For
to be
those that
disappointed in
don't know,
like 2 seconds.
which is mainly
Aw.
people outside of Europe, teletext was an earlier and way, way, way more capable use of the vertical blanking interval for sending data along with television transmissions. And I cannot stress the way, way, way more capable part enough. It wasn't just captions. It was full-on news, weather, sports information, trivia
I'd also mind you have to
games,
break
and
HTC
even computer programs.
Yeah, that's also
all
true.
sent alongside ordinary
Unless it's
television.
You know what? It
For
probably
whatever
strips
reason,
it.
Probably the lack of a nationalized television broadcaster. That never got any traction here. Americans just don't know what teletext is or was. We never had it aside from small-scale tests here and there. Those who live where teletext is common might be surprised that our closed captions work just fine on VHS cassettes. See, our standard was designed with that in mind. Teletext, on the other hand, is very high bandwidth, and television sets couldn't decode it from a consumer videotape. However, some really cool people have developed software techniques to recover the teletext information from home recordings, and archives are being built and expanded as we speak.
Ooh.
That's really interesting to me, but without a personal connection to it, I just won't give the story justice. I'll leave that for someone else to tackle. I've put links to some info about teletext and to the archive if you're curious down in the description. But yeah, a teletext video isn't going to happen on this channel. I bet there are some pretty cool videos on YouTube right now, though. Oh, goodness. No. Why are these popping up? They have nothing to... Okay, well, if any of you out there have been holding off to make a video, waiting for me to do something, you go right ahead. I'll even be on the lookout for them. And this one's pretty good if you want to learn a bit about it right now. Okay, bye.
I love him. Love the effort.
Are you looking for a technological solution to your fear of... Nope. Are you a prude who can't bear the thought of your children being exposed to... Oh god, I didn't take a breath at the right time.
Okay, are you ready
Custom
for
circuit board? It's not a circuit.
part 2? Let's disassemble it and see what the hell is going on.
Recently nerd sniped by something.
Oh, hold on. Oh.
I was recently nerd sniped by something I saw on the YouTube channel Technology Connections. If you're not already familiar, you should stop watching this video and go watch, like, and subscribe to everything he's ever produced. But now that
Yes.
you've done that, you may recall in a recent video, he took a look at something called the TV Guardian.
The TV Guardian filters out foul language from cable or satellite TV and home video sources.
We should know because we
VHS tapes,
literally just
DVDs,
watched it.
And let's not forget Laserdiscs.
He goes into plenty of detail about how this 1980s era Marvel works, including mentioning that
baked into its programming is a dictionary of offensive words and phrases which
Can you post
for
one half and I
science,
post the other?
I'd
Yeah,
love
no,
to see.
this is the other
It's
half.
not written anywhere in the manual. Aw, shucks.
So I figured it'd be a good idea to, for science, see what it takes to extract data from a device like this. So I found my own on eBay, and let's take a look at what I got. And I have to say, the construction of this thing...
Nice
feels
warranty sticker,
exceptionally
homie.
cheap. But inside, it's pretty straightforward, just a single board. One of the first things I noticed when I opened this up is there's a chip here with a sticker that says 1.05, and that sticker presumably is a version of software, something that's programmed into that chip by the manufacturer of the TV Guardian. So let's try to get that sticker off and see what kind of chip this is. And so this is a PIC microcontroller, PIC 16C622A, and a microcontroller is basically a microprocessor with some RAM and ROM all built into one package. And in this case, it looks like there's 2K of ROM and 128 bytes of RAM. So there's definitely going to be some code
Tiny little
programmed
computer
onto
on
the
there.
ROM on this PIC. So, but that could prove difficult to get. But let's take a look at what else we have on this board. We've got this Zilog Z8612912
Oh, I posted another video where they hack it.
SSC.
Oh!
This is a NTSC Line 21 decoder. So this is going to decode the closed captioning. And then this JRC chip, this Japan Radio Corporation 2207, that is a video superimposer. So that's how it's going to put the closed captionings back on the video that it puts out. So that sort of makes sense that you'd have a closed caption decoder and some sort of superimposer for putting text on top of video. And there's a couple other chips here. We've got, this looks like an LM358A op amp of some sort, and then an LM393 comparator. Not sure exactly what those are used for, but maybe something to do with the audio muting or something like that. Or maybe it does something with the video signal, not really sure. And then up here we've got a 74HC4066. This is a quad analog switch, so maybe this is what does the audio muting. Hard to say without tracing out all the traces and everything. But finally, we get to this chip here, which is a 93LC86. And that is a serial
LM types is
EEPROM.
for using audio
So there's
things.
some data
Oh,
stored on this chip
Thank
as
you
well.
for telling us.
So getting the data out of the ROM that's built into the microcontroller could prove to be difficult. But getting data that's on this ROM is actually going to be pretty easy. So let's start with the low-hanging fruit and see what we can extract from this guy. And the first step is extracting the chip from the circuit board. So using a combination of copper braid and a little suction tool to suck the solder out of there. And once I've got most of the solder out, I'll use hot air to loosen any remaining solder while easing the chip out with some tweezers. So there we go. So here it is, the 93LC86, and I've got it on a breadboard, of course. But to figure out how to read data from it,
Before
let's
you
take
can
a look at the
extract
data
from
sheet.
the guy, you
So here's
must
the
extract
pinout,
the guy.
and it says
Correct.
pins 8 and 5 are power and ground. So I'll go ahead and start hooking those up. So pin 8 is power, and pin 5 is ground. And so that'll supply power to the chip. And it says it's a 2.5 volt chip. But if we look at the specs here, it says it'll actually work with anything from 2.5 volts to 6 volts. So no problem powering with 5 volts, which is nice. Then we've got chip select, clock, data in, and data out. And this looks suspiciously like a serial peripheral interface or SPI interface. And I already did a whole video on that, so we'll get to that in a minute. But then there are these two other pins, PE and org. So if we look at the description, it says the 93LC, we have the 86. So it's going to be a 16K electrically erasable programmable read-only memory. And the 16K refers to it holding 16,000 bits of data. And then it says it's configured as either an 8-bit or 16-bit organization, depending on the org pin setup. So in other words, the chip holds 16,000 bits of data, and this pin tells it whether it's storing the data as 2,000 8-bit words or 1,000 16-bit words. Now we don't have to guess which mode the TV Guardian is using because we can just look at the circuit board where I removed it. So here's the power pin, and here's the ground pin, and if you look closely, you can see there's a connection between the ground pin and the org pin. Now, if we go back to the data sheet and we look at the pin descriptions, we can see that when the org pin is tied to VSS, which is ground, the 8-bit memory organization is selected. So we can go ahead and tie our org pin here to ground like that. So that's the org pin. And now for the PE pin, if you again look closely, you can see it's actually connected as well. All three of these are connected together. So the PE pin is also connected to ground. And PE is the program enable pin. It says if this pin is tied to VSS or ground,
programming will be inhibited. So connecting this pin to ground like this basically makes the chip read-only. And that actually tells us something about the TV Guardian. It tells us that it would never actually be able to erase or write data into this chip because the program enable pin is always grounded like this, and so this chip is just always read-only. And so that just leaves us with the chip select clock data in and data out pins.
In theory, you could program
and we'll need to manipulate these pins in order to read data from the chip. So I'm going to connect them all to an Arduino that'll just let us do whatever we want with them. So I'll connect digital pin 2 on the Arduino to chip select. Pin 3 I'll connect to the clock. Pin 4 is going to be data in, and then pin 5 is data out. And then conveniently, the Arduino can provide a 5-volt power source, so I'll use that to power the chip. And then, of course, also need to connect a common ground. And so all of that should allow us to start extracting data from this chip into the Arduino and
He makes
read,
this so
what's on the
easy
chip.
sounding.
So with that hooked up, let's program the Arduino. I'll start out by creating some definitions. So chip select is on pin 2. We hooked up the clock pin to pin 3, data in to pin 4, and data out to pin 5. Then we'll initialize those pins here. So chip select is output. Clock is also going to be output from the Arduino. And data in is output because remember it's data in on the ROM chip, so it'll be output on the Arduino. And similarly, data out on the ROM chip
I'd
is
be
input
okay
on the
able to do
Arduino.
this stuff casually. Oh,
Then to read the data from the ROM, the data
actually,
sheet...
speaking of, a friend did message me. There was a Steam game that had this ability to do it. Hold on, let me check it really quickly. I just forgot the name of the game. That's not the right site name. Hold on. To teach you with this stuff? I think so. Hold on. Because I saw a new game that came out that had basically like a circuit playground type thing. Oh, I think, yeah, it was this one. It was this one. Retro Gadgets sort of has the same vibe, although it's very cute and it's not, you know, it's more fantasy-esque. But the real one is this, is Crumb Circuit Simulator. The quality's ass, but don't worry about it. Hold on. Oh, right, there we go. Hold on. Like, there's a breadboard, and it even has chips that you can, like, write to and program. Oh, there's even visible, and you can even see the stuff visibly, too. Can you make a Nixie clock? I don't know. I've only been told about this game. Oh my god, it has an oscilloscope view. Is that a data sheet? Oh my god, it has data sheets. Else, like, but, like, I want to see what I can do with this, just as a learning exercise, maybe. Because this looks so damn cool. But also, it does feel like a tool more than a game. Retro Gadgets is more of a game. Both these, I'd watch a Chrome stream. I mean, hell. If you want to. All right.
It shows the different commands we can send it. So we've got the 93LC86 with the org pin tied to ground. And for the read instruction, we send a start bit of 1, followed by the read instruction of 10, and then an 11-bit address of the byte we want to read. Then it'll send back 8 bits of data that are stored at that address. The rest of these commands, erase, write, enable, erase all, write all, erase, write, disable, we don't need any of those, and actually none of them are going to work because we've write protected the chip. But the read command is what we want, and the datasheet also includes a timing diagram showing the same thing in more detail. So chip select goes high, and then the clock pulses high and low, and each time the clock goes high, we have to have the right data on the data in line. So a start bit of 1, 0, and then 11 bits of address that we want to read each time the clock cycles. So let's do that. So the first thing that happens is chip select goes high. So we'll set the chip select pin high. And then the instruction that we want to send is going to be 110 followed by the 11-bit address we want to read from. And eventually we'll want to read from every address to read everything on the ROM. But let's start with address 0. And to transmit this 1 bit at a time, I'll create a loop that shifts a bit through all 14 bit positions in the instruction. And that'll act as a bit mask. So I'm basically going to start with a mask with 1 bit set all the way to the left. And then each time through the loop, I'll shift that mask bit to the right. Then in the loop, we can test if the instruction has the same bit set. So if we AND the mask with the instruction, we're comparing this first bit here with the first bit in the instruction. And so if that's a 1, which it is in this case, then we want to send a 1. So we'll set data in high. Remember, that's data into the ROM. Otherwise, we'll set data in low.
This logic a little bit escapes me,
Then the
but
next time through this loop, this shift
it
right
sounds
will shift this
sound
bit here over to the right, and then we'll compare the next bit.
Because also, to be honest, I've never done bit by bit operations. I've never done that. I need to
in
probably.
the instruction. And then we'll just keep going bit by bit, writing out whichever, whether it's high or low, depending on which bit we're on, until we go through all of the bits in the instruction. But anyway, after we send the bit value, we need to toggle the clock. So we'll set the clock pin high, and then set the clock pin low. And based on the timing info in the datasheet, we shouldn't need to add any additional delay here. So now we transmitted this instruction and the address. And if we keep pulsing the clock, the ROM should start spitting out the data. And just so we're in sync here, we just transmitted this last bit of address, and the clock is low. So we're right here. If we
logic
transition
gates
the
are
clock
easy.
high and then low again,
That's
then
just
we'll be right
theoretical,
here,
you know?
ready to read the first bit of data. So let's create a variable to store whatever data we read. And then I'll create a loop to read 8 bits of data. So I'll start by toggling the clock high and setting the clock low again, and that'll signal the ROM that we want the next bit of data. So if the data out pin on the ROM is high, in that case, we've read a 1. So in that case, I'll shift our data variable to the left by 1 bit, and then flip the last bit by ORing it with a 1. Otherwise, I'll just shift the variable and not flip the last bit. So at this point, we've read all 8 bits of data, and we're done with this whole process, so I can set the chip select line low. And then let's print out whatever data we received. So first I need to initialize the serial output of the Arduino. So I'll go ahead and do that up here.
It's so nice
and then
seeing
down
you
here,
again.
We can just print the data to
How are
the
you?
serial
How
port
are
to see
you?
what we got.
Hello. It's nice seeing all you guys. If you guys haven't heard of me, or if you're watching me for the first time, hello. My name, of course, is Alma Hexblade, head guildmaster and chief barista here at Books and Brews. Go ahead and take a seat. Nice to see you guys. Today we are catching up on watching fun videos. So, last thing we did. Oh, Allie, you shout yourself out, by the way. I mean, you're a mod. We were watching a video about a censoring device for TV that could censor funny swear words into not funny swear words. And this is a follow-up video about how we're going to hack into the information on it and see what it is. So it might be a little bit high, might be boring, but he's been doing a very good job. You just been, doing UCOB? Nice. You saw Bahamut?
So with that, I'll upload the program to the Arduino and see what it does.
So this is a little bit of just coding.
So I've got an oscilloscope hooked up to all 4 lines so you can see what's going on here. And so here's the chip select. So you can see that goes high for the entire operation and then goes low. This is the clock, and you can see there's 22 clock pulses. So there's the start bit, the 2 bits indicating it's a read operation, then 11 bits of address, and then 8 more clock pulses for the 8 bits of data that we're going to read. This is the data in, and so you can see here's the 110 that we start with, and then all the zeros for the address. And here's data out, and you can see that we're getting at least 1 bit here, and maybe something else going on here with some data coming out that we're reading. So if we look at the Arduino serial monitor here, it shows that we received 65. And I happen to know that a 65 is the ASCII code for the capital letter A. But we could also, if we expect this to be text, we can just have the Arduino printed as a character. And so if we rerun this, we'll upload and let it run again. Look at our serial monitor. There we go. It printed in A. But that's just one byte out of the 2048 bytes that are in the ROM. So let's get the rest of them and see if we can make any sense of it. I'll start by factoring out this loop where we send the instruction into a separate function for sending the instruction. So we can just call this function each time we want to send a read
Error
instruction.
censorship. Just
And then I'll also factor out the loop where we read the data into a separate function for reading data. That way, after we've sent an instruction and we want to read a byte from the ROM, we can just call the read byte function. So that way we're setting chip select high, we're sending the instruction to read a byte, we're reading a byte, and we're setting chip select low, and now we've got our data, we print it out. So now that I've simplified that, I'll create a loop that reads all 2048 bytes of the ROM. So this will use the variable address to iterate through the 2048 addresses. And then inside this loop, we're setting chip select high, sending the instruction, reading a byte, setting chip select low, and then printing the data. Except, of course, for the instruction, I want to send that instruction with the particular address we want to read. And then when we print, instead of putting each letter on a new line, we'll just print them all on the same line. And so let's give that a try. Actually, maybe let's just read the first 100 bytes for now to see if we get anything interesting. So go ahead and upload this.
And they're testing, so let's see here.
Oh, what did I do?
Oh,
to return data, not return byte. Look at our serial monitor. Ooh, look at that. So
we're getting funny words now.
Words.
Yay!
So here's that first byte in the ROM that we read is the A, but now we're reading the next 99 bytes, and we're seeing some potentially a list of words to be censored. And it also looks like there's maybe some special characters in here separating each word. And yeah, I know it'd be easier to just dump the contents of the ROM using a commercial EEPROM programmer like this one that I sell on my website, eater.net/shop. But where's the fun in that? It's much cooler to take a random product like this, pull it apart, and figure out how it works from first principles. And so to extract the rest of the contents of the ROM, I've modified the program a little bit. I'm going through all 2048 bytes, but I'm fetching 16 bytes at a time. So you can see I'm still setting chip select high here, and then I'm sending the instruction to fetch the current address. But then I'm fetching 16 bytes at a time. And that's a feature of the ROM that if you just keep reading bits without setting chip select low, it'll just send the next byte in order. Then chip select goes low here after we've read those 16 bytes. And then the rest of the code here is just printing out the data that we read, 16 bytes at a time, both in hex as well as ASCII. So let's upload this and run it and see what we get. So we'll open up our serial monitor, and it looks like it got a little bit garbled. Let's clear that, and I'll reset the Arduino so it runs again.
Funny words.
And there we go. This is the entire contents of the ROM.
Hey,
I've looked at this quite a bit, actually, to try to figure out what I can learn. And I think I've figured most of it out, but there's still a few things I'm not sure about. So first, it's obviously a list of words to censor, separated by some sort of non-ASCII characters. So in some cases, between words, there's a 0 and then a larger value, like 98. In other cases, you'll have a word followed by a 0, followed by a 2, or in some cases a 1, followed by a larger value, in this case 81. But in many cases, there's just a single byte between words, and it's just some higher value byte. And so you've got a bunch of words, and then eventually you get to a point where you get a word, followed by a higher value byte here, followed by an FF. And then after FF, it's all zeros up until you get to the next block of 256 bytes. So you have these 256 byte blocks that have words up until a certain point, and then it's just all zeros. And then you get into the next block, and it goes on for some period of time. And then you get this FF, and then it's all zeros until you get to the next block. And then here you've got another block. Actually, this one actually ends right at the end of the 256 bytes, and the next one starts right away. But then at the end of that block, you get to another block. And so there's a total of 6 of these 256 byte blocks of
great words in this list.
Then the 7th block here actually appears to be the replacement words. I think these are the G-rated words. And in this case, the format's actually a little bit different. The words are separated just by nulls. So there's just a single 0 between each of these words. And then after the replacement words, you've got that FF again, followed by nulls. And then this last block of 256 bytes just seems to have some version data or metadata or something. And that's it. So there's not that much to it. It's a bunch of words, and each word is followed by some byte code of some sort. And the question is, what do those byte codes mean? And can we figure out anything about how this device works by trying to decode them? So to better analyze what's going on, I put all the data into a spreadsheet. So I've got all the words here.
Hell yeah,
and as you
spreadsheet
saw,
time.
each word may be followed by a 0, a 1, and or a 2, and then some higher value byte. And so what's interesting is if we convert this higher value byte to binary, and we can do that in the spreadsheet with just the hex to bin function.
Also,
And I
this
spent some
stuff I
time looking
didn't
for
even know
patterns
you
in
could
these
do
bits. And one
in
pattern I
Google
noticed
Sheets.
is
Look
that
at
it seems
this.
like among this list of censored words, there's also some whitelisted words. So for example, but is censored, but presumably butter and button are allowed. And so it seems like the words that are allowed have a 1 in this bit position 5, or the third from the left. And so we can actually test for that bit. So I can bitwise and the decimal value of that binary string with 32, since the bit 6 is the 32's place. So I'll just copy this to every row here. And so this shows us all the allowed words. So that's kind of interesting. The other thing I noticed is that if you look at the list of replacement words here, there's actually exactly 32 of them. If you count this first blank, because the first byte in that section was a 0.
You can only
and
censor up
32
to
is a power of
32
2, so that
words.
makes me suspicious. And so because you can represent any number from 0 to 31 using exactly 5
No, yeah.
bits. So if we go back,
I think yeah. So hold on. Where is it? Where was Dick Van? Where is it? It's somewhere in here. Oh, it's not. It's not in here.
and
yet.
look at but, the last 5 bits of this are 00001.
But.
And going back to the list of replacement words, if this blank is index 0,
I like how this one is censored. This one's allowed.
index 1 would be tail, and I guess tail is a reasonable replacement for but. So it looks
But.
like maybe those last 5 bits correspond to which of the replacement words should be used. So let's test that theory. So if the word isn't already allowed, then let's bitwise and the decimal representation of that binary string with 31. So that'll just grab the last 5 bits. And then I'll copy this down to all of these rows. So this shows us the index into the list of allowed words that'll replace each of these words. But we can actually get the spreadsheet to look up the index in the list of allowed words using the index function. Index into this range here, and then it's going to be that index value plus 1.
Literal spreadsheet magic
And
going
make
on
sure
right
we
now. I
anchor
love it.
these. And I'll copy that down.
Ta-da!
And there we go. So those are all the substitutions. And it's interesting that it seems like it's actually a pretty hard limit that you can only have 32 possible replacements for all of these words. Now, it would seem to limit the expressiveness, but I guess
I
that's
tried
kind of
this
the
more
point.
intimidating.
But anyway, going back to these
Spreadsheeting.
bits,
Yeah,
the last
spreadsheeting is
5
pretty
tell us the
intimidating.
replacement word.
But I like
the first
it.
is always set, and then the third signals whether the word is whitelisted or not. So that leaves the second bit. And that one appears to signal whether the word is only censored when the device is in strict mode. So we can test for that the same way. Again, we'll bitwise and it. And the bit we're looking for is the 64's place.
This man just knows so much.
That indicates if it's censored in strict mode only. And there you go. So you can see strict mode censors things like balls and butt, as well as religious stuff. So it's interesting to see what qualifies there. But anyway, I'll leave a link to this spreadsheet in the video description if you'd like to explore it further. And there's still a few things I haven't figured out yet. It seems like by default it'll match anything starting with a blocked word, hence the need to whitelist butter while blocking butt. But I think if there's a 0 byte after the word, then that makes it an exact match. So this would block Christ, but it would allow Christmas, for example. But no idea what the 1s and the 2s are. So if you can see a pattern of some sort, then put it in the comments, because I have no idea. Although, by the way, I find it hilarious how much effort they put in to whitelist to
look
make
at
sure that Dick Van Dyke doesn't turn into Jerk Van Gay. But I guess everyone else named Dick is some sort of jerk. I don't know. But speaking of mysteries, there are some totally innocuous words like that, the, and those that are explicitly whitelisted, but don't seem related to any of the blocked words. They're also different from the other whitelisted words because they have this last bit set, whereas the other ones don't. Again, no idea what that's about. Maybe hints for cleaning up grammar around other block words, but I don't know. I can't figure it out.
I think that's
But
my
anyway,
main
that's pretty
music.
much it. This was certainly a fun little rabbit hole to fall into. Thanks to Technology Connections for nerd sniping me. And of course, thanks to all my patrons for making it possible for me to randomly go buy one of these things and spend all the time to play with it.
Honestly, it's like really impressive on how he was able to do this and put it in a way that was actually very easy to see. Like, it's very interesting. So let's the spreadsheet is in his Google, is in the link in the description. So yeah. So Dick Van is fine. And then I think they still go down. Hold on, I should probably get these bigger. Yeah, funny words, mean words. Yeah, that's probably for the best. Sex. Hugs. All right. Tennis ball. Oh, tennis ball. Thank God. Okay. Yo, look at those birds. Check out their form. Yeah, there it is. Van D. Yeah, the only one is this one, and that's just kind of... Honestly, that's just fine now. Oh, no, yeah, there's homosexual. And then... Oh, hold up, wait. Why is heterosexual man? What? The F word isn't in there. I don't think it would be in here. Where is it? Probably to do with the 32-bit limit. Yeah. But at the same time, I feel like... Oh, nope, it's in here. Well, the shortened version. I'm guessing because... No, it's in there. Again, we can, like, look through these. So, it's in here. I'm trying to figure out what this one is. So we got... Fuck up, fuck you, fucked, fucked up, fucker, fucking, which that's fine. Fugly. You can just use ugly. Oh. Oh. Fuckhead. Okay. Why is this one blank? You could totally just say this just as ugly. It's not that hard. Go to hell. These are just gone. I don't know what this one is, and I'm a little worried to Google. You know, I'm gonna Google it. Just in a different window. I'm not even gonna say it because I'm worried. What is this word? Oh. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. This is an anti-Semitic slur. Alrighty. Cool. These are... Crud. Sorry, like, just looking at this list and just seeing what people thought was bad is funny. A condom. Oh, no, did we all... I do hope we don't tell kids about... Okay, whatever. Anyway, we're done looking at these. Okay, so... Last video for today, since it's a little bit late, and I know I started late as well, so I'm sorry, but... I do need to sleep. So, here's the last video for today. We are running a bit low, so if you guys have any other videos, please post them in the Discord. I would very much appreciate it. Yeah, it's a little bit light. It's because I started a bit late, and I want to make sure that make sure I have enough time to sleep. I'm already overtime, so but it's not too bad, so we can do like one more video, like for sure. All right, so this one. I was typing out a surprisingly light ethics search, but then forgot. I was typing. It's fine. All right. Yeah, so this one is from Business Insider. It's about why food commercials cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, which is a scary amount.
There's a bustling operation behind the fancy cameras
Squish.
of food commercials. It takes dozens of people. and a few customized robots to make a burger look this juicy.
Oh, nothing here is simple. As far as the work we do, it's incredibly complex, very technical.
Food
Steve
robots.
Geralt has filmed commercials for big brands.
Oh my
like
god, that was cool.
Heinz and Pepsi.
Wait, hold on. I want to do that. I want to see that again. I want to see that again. I want to see that again. That was cool.
Incredibly complex, very technical.
Steve Geralt has filmed commercials
Aww.
for brands like Hershey's, Heinz, and Pepsi through his production company, The Garage. And there's a lot of money on the line. Filming one 30-second ad can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they're working against the clock because they use real food, which doesn't stay pretty for long.
That's the misnomer about everything. Faking makes things harder.
We visited Steve's studio in Brooklyn, New York to see how his team films the perfect burger. Today, Steve and his team are working on a test shoot for Burger King. They'll use it to try and land the client.
Yeah, good.
Brett Kurzweil is a veteran food stylist. It's his job to make the burger look like a Whopper.
I want to be a food
He usually has a
stylist.
budget of a couple $1,000s, and he always buys a lot more than he'll use, so he can pick out the perfect-looking bun, patty, and veggies. Then he gets to work, but he doesn't cook the meat all the way through.
Because I didn't want it to shrink too much. I wanted to get as much volume out of this piece of meat as I could get.
Can I eat these?
Even perfect patties need final touches, so he uses a colorant made of gravy darkener and soap to add a charred look.
Aww,
He only has
put
to paint
soap
half the
on
burger
it.
because the camera films from just one side.
Can't
A
eat
mixture of
that.
Vaseline and pulverized meat helps fill in any holes. And those grill marks, another trick of the trade. Brett heats up metal skewers and then
I just pushed into the burger with the hot metal and it seared.
next
The phrase Vaseline and ground meat scares me. New health hack.
he melts the cheese using a clothes steamer.
How did you change it to make it burger?
Yeah, this one's
So
kind of
I
valid.
said you're for food. But I'm trying to control how much comes out, so I've covered up some of the holes.
He cuts the onions and tomatoes on a slant so they lie flatter.
On a slant? Huh.
Well, yeah, my mother would have been happier.
Some other tricks: denture cream to hold up ingredients,
For condensation on pans, we'll use glycerin.
Yeah, not that much. Too far.
While Brett finishes up, Steve's team is making sure everything is ready on set. The trickiest part is combining what the client wants in the commercial with what's technologically possible.
They have no idea about engineering. Yeah, they're just like, robots are cool. We want a robot.
But since today
Robots
he's
are
working on a
cool.
test shoot, he just has to implement his own vision.
Like people used to rub uranium on their teeth to make their smile go.
Protection.
Wait, what?
Then he turns to master rigger Matthew Huber. He says half the time he has to build the rigs completely from scratch. They provide the structure for the specialized equipment that makes food dance across the screen. His work goes hand in hand with the robots.
The robot obviously is a hugely complicated and expensive thing that's used for a lot of what we do. But if you only just need a straight line movement pulling back, it's easier to set up a simple machine that just does a single type of movement.
Like these air pistons he uses to launch food. Or these catapults. To save on buying new parts, he uses a lot of the same base pieces.
Oh, so he just has to make new components.
Take it apart, do something different with it the next time. So we've used like a lot of these pieces probably like hundreds of times.
Meanwhile, Paula Andreas Ramirez is finalizing the set.
That's cool.
From the tables to the ketchup bottles off to the side.
I want it to feel real. So if it's blank, it won't feel like it's a real commercial kitchen.
Every inch visible to the camera matters. So Paula's team built this tile wall just for this shoot. But they said it still felt empty.
So we just added these two floating shelves up there. We planned for something, and then we just have to be ready for the unexpected.
Her typical props budget is $40,000 a shoot, but she can pull a lot from her personal collection.
This has been 20 years of collecting. And this is like Salvation Army, garage sales, years and years of hoarding. I always like to have extra. So if you're shooting, an example, a glass of soda, I need to have at least 6 of the same glasses for quick changes if they're scratched, because it's video. So it's a little bit one breaks, exactly.
So when that burger arrives, it's game time.
I gotta go on set.
Yay, burger.
Now it's a
Set
race
burger.
against the clock.
The actor is here.
Angle feels right.
Can we melt the cheese a little?
I mean, wouldn't you hold on to stuff? Yeah, I was like, why wouldn't you reuse certain things? Because I mean, like, you know, a restaurant's a restaurant.
And push in a little bit closer.
I'm like, look how cool paint.
Today they have custom-built water-cooled lights that don't torch the food.
We used to have like these really hot lights that would like cook the food and it would die really quickly. So like the ice cream would be like impossible to shoot in slow motion because it would just melt the second you turn the lights on.
But that lettuce will start to wilt in a matter of minutes. Hot lights are not. So quick-moving robots and tons of planning are essential to keep a shoot on schedule. Because any delay could mean running over budget.
I love how they have to
The
rush
first
it
action
now.
uses a dolly zoom to create something known as the Hitchcock effect.
Hey.
But the whole background is like warping.
You guys know the Hitchcock
Cue
effect?
the robots.
It's really
They're
good.
actually the same kind that build cars. This robot cost $150,000. And it can pretty much do any move you can think of.
Sometimes you can program the robot pretty quickly. Some moves take a whole day.
Here's the second shot. Steve envisioned the camera moving through a field of burgers.
I like the fake burgers on the side. It's like you mean the silhouette thing you say? No, not the silhouette thing. It's the Hitchcock effect is when the subject is in focus but the background shifts. And that's done by simultaneously what was it? Moving the camera back while adjusting its field of view. It's a really cool effect. I'll find a video of it. I love this. It's like what you see at Disney World versus what's behind. This is just funny to me.
As each gets pulled out of frame.
We're probably only like an inch and a half away from that burger when we land. So to try to do that with people would be almost impossible. It's a really complex move that the robots do really easily, and they do it the same exact way every time.
But speed is not the only challenge. Every shot has to be identical. If a burger is even a centimeter off, or if something on set gets bumped between takes, they might have to start over.
These fries don't want to
VTubers that don't have legs.
This laser helps them keep track
Energy.
of the burger's position.
Or sometimes you might do a job where there's 100 takes of the same move, like I think that would be an accident.
They also have to be really flexible on set.
There's always curveballs that happen because it's a lot of problem solving, which I love.
For the last shot, Steve ties all the ingredients on a fishing wire, and a robot slices the string and the camera catches the perfect drop. This exact move was actually Steve's claim to fame in 2016.
I did this famous burger drop video that went viral all over the internet.
He slowly raked in millions of views across
Yeah, this is
platforms.
really good.
Global publications started covering his work. All that social media buzz earned him a lot of viewers and new clients.
Oh
He was
shit!
able to launch the garage in 2019.
Oh, that's such a cool shot.
Spark that started
Oh,
where we are today.
that's such a
And now
good
TikTok
shot.
is like crazier than Instagram.
Oh, these
ever
are
was to me.
so cool looking.
Steve is a former food photographer, but he wanted to combine his love of engineering, food, and video.
And amazingly, there's a job that lets me do that. There's a lot of different jobs that my guidance
The
counselor
flipping
did not
burger
know
thing
about.
onto the patty was the sickest thing I think I've seen.
Today, his team films 40 advertisements a year, billing over $5 million annually.
Kind of feels like CGI, but it's actually done in camera. And I think to accomplish that like larger than life feeling takes just a lot of technology and skill.
Steve says they know they've done a good job when viewers can't tell a whole production is hidden behind a shot.
They have no idea what we do at the end of the day. It is fun for me for people to understand how complex this stuff is.
But all that complexity is worth it. Because
I just
there's a
love
lot
the
of money
fake.
on the
I just love the burger
Fast food companies poured
scaffolding.
$5 billion into advertising in 2019. And for good reason. They know just how valuable the power of food suggestion can be. A Yale University study found that visual cues like food ads can have an effect on food cravings. Another study showed visual cues can influence overeating and even weight gain, and that can convert into traffic and impressions for a brand.
You're responsible for a lot of people breaking their diet.
Me included.
These brands led the pack in ad spending in 2019, and budgets just keep ballooning. In
Reminder,
September,
you aren't
Burger King
immune to
announced It'll
ads.
invest $400
Well, if you
million
subscribe
in
to me on
restaurant renovations and
twitch.tv/AlmaHexblade,
30% increase from 2021.
you'll be immune to my ads.
Which is why Steve and his team filmed this Whopper pitch.
Good
hoping to get
trade-off.
a new client.
Good
with
trade-off.
dancing robots and juicy burgers.
That's the ad, though. Yeah. I mean, you're right. Okay, hold on. I need to show people what in the hell the Hitchcock shot is before we end, because I can't believe people don't know this. Or I want to tell people about it because it's a cool thing. There. Okay. It's also known as the dolly zoom. So, watch this.
The dolly zoom is one of the most disorienting and flashy camera techniques of all time. And it shows up in some of the most beloved scenes in cinema.
Okay, maybe this might not be it, but it's... Oh, there it is.
But the shot also teaches us a lot about filmmaking. It shows the different kind of lenses and how to use them, it enhances the emotion of a scene, and it can be used in subtle places you may not have even noticed. Let's see how. The dolly zoom, or sometimes called the vertigo effect, started in Hitchcock's film Vertigo in 1958. You need a smooth track and steady zoom to pull it off nicely, which is why
It's like kind of a way of messing with the
sooner.
focal
The
length.
shot
Yeah.
is an optical illusion caused by zooming in or out on the camera lens while tracking the camera forward or backward. The result is the foreground stays in the same position while the background appears to squeeze or stretch, depending on which direction you go. It actually teaches an important principle of filming, camera lens. If you ever wanted to see the difference between wide-angle and telephoto lenses, a simplified example would be to observe a dolly zoom. Compare how it begins to how it ends. The dolly zoom shot can start like a telephoto lens, where the camera is far away and the focal length is bigger. There's less background in sight because the lens concentrates on a smaller portion of it. But when you change focal length by zooming out while also pushing the camera forward, you can observe more of the background while keeping the foreground in the same place. The result is filming the same thing, but the camera expands to see more of the background. The change in focal length takes in a wider area, so you go from a telephoto shot to a wide-angle shot. You generally use telephoto in close-ups to keep attention on the foreground. When you move the camera around while using a telephoto lens, the background whips quickly behind the foreground because the camera takes in less of the background. It makes for some pretty cool shots. People also tend to look better in telephoto because their faces aren't stretched by the wider lens. Wide angle takes in more of the background, so it's better for outdoor shots when you want to capture the landscape. So each lens is a trade-off. The dolly zoom captures the transition from one kind of lens shot to the other, and it leads to different emotional responses for the viewer. Vertigo uses the dolly zoom to give a sense of height. This increase in height perfectly embodies how the telephoto has a more narrow view of the background. So we go from capturing a lot of the background to capturing very little. The result is a dizzying optical illusion. The shot is unsettling, even a little bit nauseating for some, because it's physically impossible to experience without some kind of lens alteration. In Goodfellas, the diner scene becomes all the more confusing as the landscape shifts around them in impossible ways. Just as Henry's world is crushing and his paranoia grows, the impossible movement of the diner shows just how disoriented he feels. The zoom makes the world literally close in around him as getting caught seems almost inevitable. As I mentioned before, the wide-angle lens makes people look a bit off. With the famous dolly zoom in Jaws, the shot shifts to a wide-angle look, which makes his face look just a bit more stretched and unnatural, and it unconsciously adds to the rest of the freakiness of the shot. Those three examples, Vertigo, Jaws, and Goodfellas, are the go-to examples whenever anybody mentions the dolly zoom. The problem is that when teaching the shot, the examples usually stop there, which is a shame because it makes the shot seem like a one-off effect for legendary movies. But it's actually a lot more versatile and common than that. Its out-of-this-world visual look makes it commonly used for the supernatural or the feeling of a drug trip. I particularly enjoy its use in The Lord of the Rings because the widening of the holes in the trees gives the visual feeling that the forest is opening up a portal for the enemy to come. It's almost always used at a movie's climactic epic moment, so if your hero fails, it adds to the punchline.
Sorry, we're closed!
The shot has even found its way into animation. Brad Bird uses it extensively in his films. The food critic flashback gets enhanced with a dolly zoom effect to simulate the transportation from one world to another.
Yeah, there's the dolly
Generated has a distinct opportunity to use the photo in interesting ways because of animation's complete control of object placement. As Remy relates to Chef Gusteau, the dolly zoom is no longer used to disorient the viewer, but to show them get physically closer together, indicating a relationship is born. The Incredibles has a seemingly impossible dolly zoom as Mrs. Incredible gets closer closer to the temptation. Both instances are non-disruptive, but also draw our attention to certain parts of the shot with its trademark squeezing effect. The dolly zoom is certainly a fantastical shot at the disposal of the filmmaker, but remember, it's more than just a cheap trick. Alfred Hitchcock used it for depth, Scorsese used it to show paranoia, and Brad Bird used it for visual cues. So be on the lookout for it. Thanks for watching.
Yeah.
What are you staring at, fucker?
Nice. So yeah, that's the dolly zoom, and honestly, it's really cool. I think sometimes you might see it in anime, because I feel like there's a similar shot in anime that has the same thing. Hold on. Oh yeah, it's that weird yeah, it's the one where characters go insane or whatever that camera angle is. It's kind of the same thing. Because you zoom in on them, the background gets smaller, and then the camera is super warped. Hold on. I have it here. I just don't know what the stupid thing is called. Oh, hey, that one has Crony in it. But, like, you can see how some of them are warped in the same way that you would with, like, a telephoto lens. So that's kind of like the same idea. I wish it was in, like, in movement. I also wish there was a name for this effect. Yeah, combine it with a fisheye warp and it gets really, like... It gets spooky. It also gets super overused. But that's why it's funny. In VC Face they have that? Oh man. Yeah, they have a yeah, you're right. Okay. Anyway. But yeah, framing, very important. I just wish there was a name for this stupid camera angle. Because it happens so often, I'm very surprised. Yeah, there it is. It happens so often, I'm very surprised that there's not a name for it, or I'm not looking up the right name. This'll annoy me by the time I go to bed. Anyway, we're out of here. Let's get out of here. We gotta go to sleep. Y'all need to go to sleep. Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. I very much appreciate it. Thank you again, Allie, for the raid. So, this is gonna be the end of our week stream, of course. And we're gonna see each other again back on Tuesday. And actually, shoot, before I end, I need to...
internet in Japan.
No! Before I make sure, I gotta clear out everything. Alright, anyway. Make sure that I just got everything all taken care of here. Alright, so next stream's probably gonna be... Tuesday? Tuesday, right? Titties out Tuesday. My titties are always out, look at this. Now? Ooh. And I'm moving my shoulders and it's not working. Woo! Woo! Today's out Tuesday. Anyway. Thank you guys. I very much appreciate it. See you guys Tuesday. Or maybe earlier if I want to stream Splatoon or something. Make sure you guys save before you go and have a wonderful rest of your night. Bye-bye.